Seven Kingdoms by George R.R. Martin, The Hedge Knight. Story offered here takes place about 100 years prior to the events described in A Game of Thrones. The spring rains had softened the ground, so Dunk had no trouble digging the grave. He chose a spot on the western slope of a low hill, for the old man had always loved to watch the sunset. Another day done, he would sigh. And who knows what the morrow will bring us, eh, Dunk? Well, one morrow had brought rains that soaked them to the bones, and the next one had brought wet, gusty winds, and the next a chill. By the fourth, the old man was too weak to ride, and now he was gone. Only a few days passed. He had been singing as they rode. The old song about going to Gulltown to see a fair maid, but instead of Gulltown, he'd sung of Ashford. Off to Ashford to see the fair maid, hi-ho, hi-ho. Dunk thought miserably as he dug. When the hole was deep enough, he lifted the old man's body in his arms and carried him there. He had been a small man, slim, stripped of hauberk, helm, sword belt. He seemed to weigh no more than a bag of leaves. Dunk was hugely tall for his age, a shambling, shaggy, big-boned boy of 16 or 17. No one was quite certain, who stood closer to 7 feet than 6, and had only begun to just fill out his frame. The old man had often praised his strength. He had always been generous in his praise. It was all he had to give. He laid him out at the bottom in the grave and stood over him for a time. The smell of rain was in the air again, and he knew he ought to fill the hole before it broke, but it was hard to throw dirt down on the tired old face. There ought to be a septon here to say some prayers over him, but he only has me. The old man taught Dunk all he knew of sword and shield and lances, but he'd never been good at teaching him words. I'd leave your sword, but it would only rust in the ground, he said, at last, apologetic. The gods will give you a new one, I guess. I wish you didn't die, sir. He paused, uncertain what else he needed to be said. He didn't know any prayers, not all the way through. The old man had never been much for praying. You were a true knight, and you never beat me when I didn't deserve it, he finally managed, except that one time in Maidenpool. It was the inn boy who ate the widow woman's pie, not me, sir. I told you. It don't matter now. The gods keep you, sir. He kicked dirt in the hole, and he began to fill it methodically, never looking at the thing at the bottom. He had a long life, Dunk thought. He must have been closer to 60 than 50, and how many men get to say that? At least he'd live to see another spring. The sun was westing as he fed the horses. There were 3. His swayed-back Stot, the old man's palfrey, and Thunder, his war-horse, who was only ridden in tourney and battle. The big-bound stallion was not as swift or strong as he'd once been, but he still had his bright eye and fierce spirit, and was more valuable than anything else Dunk owned. If I sold Thunder and Chestnut and the saddles and bridles, I'd come away with enough silver to... Dunk frowned. The only thing he'd known in his life was that of a life of a hedge knight, riding from keep to keep, taking service with this lord and that lord, fighting in their battles, and eating in their halls until the war was done, then moving on. There were tourneys from time to time as well, though less, and he knew that some hedge knights turned robber during lean winters, though the old man never had. If I could find another hedge knight in need of a squire to tend his animals and clean his mail, he thought. Or might be I go to some city, Lannisport or King's Landing, and join the city watch, or else... He had piled the old man's things under an oak. The cloth purse contained 3 silver stags, 19 copper pennies, and a chipped garnet. Like most hedge knights, the greatest part of his worldly wealth had been tied up in his horses and weapons. Dunk now owned a chainmail hauberk that he had scoured the rust off 1,000 times, an iron half-helm with a broad nasal and a dent on the left temple, a sword belt of cracked brown leather, a long sword in a wooden leather scabbard, a dagger, a razor, a whetstone, greaves and gorget, An 8-foot war lance of turned ash topped by a cruel iron point, an oaken shield with a scarred metal rim bearing the sigil of Sir Arlen of Pennytree, a winged chalice, silver on brown. Dunk looked at the shield, scooped up the sword belt, looked at his shield again. The belt was made for the old man's skinny hips, and it would never do for him, no more than the hauberk would. He tied the scabbard to a length of hempen rope, knotted around his waist, and drew the longsword. The blade was straight and heavy, good castle-forged steel, the grip soft leather wrapped over wood, the pommel a smooth, polished black stone. Plain as it was, the sword felt good in his hands, and Dunk knew how sharp it was, having worked it with the whetstone and oilcloth many a night before they went to sleep. Fits my grip as well as it ever fit his, he thought to himself. And there is the tourney at Ashford Meadows. Sweetfoot had an easier gait than Old Chestnut, but Dunk was still sore and tired when he spied the inn ahead. A tall, daub and timber building beside a stream. The warm yellow light spilling from its windows looked inviting that he could not pass it by. I have 3 silvers, he told himself. Good enough for a meal and as much ale as I care to drink. As he dismounted, a naked boy emerged dripping from the stream and began to dry himself in a rough-spun brown cloak. Are you the stable boy? Dunk asked him. The lad looked to be no more than 8 or 9, skinny thing with his bare feet caked in mud up to his ankle. His hair was the queerest thing about him. He had none. I want my palfrey rubbed down, and oats for all 3. Can you tend to them? The boy looked at him brazenly. I could, if I wanted. Dunk frowned. I'll have none of that. I am a knight, I'll have you know. You don't look to be a knight. Do all knights look the same? No, but they don't look like you, either. Your sword bread's made of rope. As long as it holds my scabbard, it serves. Now see to the horses. You'll get a copper if you do well, and a clout in the air if you don't. There's your... He did not wait to see how the stable boy took that, but turned and shouldered through the door. At this hour, he would have expected the inn to be crowded, but the common room was mostly empty. A young lordling in fine damask mantle was passed out at one table, snoring softly into a pool of spilled wine. Otherwise, there was no one. Dunk looked around, uncertain, until a stout, short, whey-faced woman emerged from the kitchens and said, Sit where you like. Is it ale you want or food? Both. Dunk took a chair by the window, well away from the sleeping man. There's good lamb roasted with herbs and crusts, some ducks my son shot. Which will you have? He had not eaten had a yin in half a year or more. Both. The woman laughed. Well, you're big enough for it. She drew a tankard of ale and brought it to his table. Will you be wanting a room for the night as well? No. Dunk would have liked nothing better than a soft straw mattress and a roof above his head, but he needed to be careful with his coin. The ground would serve. Some food, some ale, and it's on to Ashford for me. How much further is it? A day's ride. Bear north when the road forks at the burned mill. Is my boy seeing to your horses, or has he ran off again? No, he's there, said Dunk. You seem to have no custom. Half the town's going to the tourney. My own would as well if I allowed it. They'll have this in where I go, but the boy would sooner swagger about with the soldiers, and the girls turns to the sighs and the giggles every time a knight rides by, I swear. I couldn't tell you why. Knights are all built the same as other men, and I never knew a joust to change the price of eggs. She eyed Dunk curiously. His sword and shield told her one thing. His ropes, belt, and rough-spun tunic quite another. You're bound for the tourney yourself? He took a sip of ale before he answered. A nut-brown color it was, and thick on the tongue, just the way he liked it. Aye, he said. I mean to be your champion. Do you now? The innkeeper answered polite enough. Across the room, the lordling raised his head from the wine puddle. His face had a sallow, unhealthy cast to it. beneath a rat's nest. Sandy brown hair, blonde stubble crusted on his chin. He rubbed his mouth, blinked at Dunk, and said, "I dreamed of you." His hand trembled as he pointed a finger. You stay away from me, do you hear? You stay well away." Doug stared at him uncertainly. "My lord?" The innkeeper leaned close.
"Never you mind about that one, sir. All he does is drink and talk about his dreams. I'll see to that food."
She bustled off. "Food?" Lordling made the word an obscenity. He staggered to his feet, one hand on the table to keep himself from falling. "I'm gonna be sick," he announced. The front of his tunic was crusty with the red wine stains. "I've wanted a whore, and there's none to be found around here. All have gone to Ashford Meadows. Gods be good, I need some wine." He lurched unsteadily from the common room. Dunk heard him climbing the steps, singing under his breath. A sad creature, thought Dunk. But why did he think he knew me? He pondered that a moment over his ale. The lamb was as good as any he'd ever gotten, and the duck was even better, cooked with cherries and lemons, and not near as greasy as most. The innkeep brought buttered peas as well, and oaten bread still hot from her oven. "This is what it means to be a knight," he told himself as he sucked every last bit of meat off the bones. "Good food, ale whenever I want, and no one to clout me in the head." He had a second tankard of ale with the meal, a third to wash it down, and a fourth because there was no one to tell him he couldn't, and when he got back, he paid the woman with a silver stag and still got back a fistful of coppers. It was dark by the time Dunk emerged. His stomach was full, his purse was a little lighter, but he felt good as he walked to the stables. Ahead, he heard the horse whicker, "Easy, lad," a boy's voice. Dunk quickened his step, frowning. He found the stable boy mounted on Thunder, wearing the old man's armor. The hauberk was longer than he was, and he had to tilt the helm back on his bald head, or else it would have covered his eyes. He looked utterly intent and utterly absurd. Dunk stopped in the stable door and laughed. The boy looked up, flushed, vaulted to the ground. My lord, I did not mean—" "Thief!" Dunk said, trying to sound certain. "Take that armor off, and be glad that Thunder didn't kick you in your fool head. He's a war horse, not a boy's pony." The boy took the helm off and flung it into the straw. "I could ride him as well as you could," he said, bold as you please. "Close your mouth. I want none of your insolence. The hauberk too, take it off. What did you think you were doing?" "How can you tell with my mouth closed?" the boy squirmed out of the mail. "You can open your mouth to answer," said Dunk. "Now pick up the mail, shake off the dirt, and put it back where you found it. The half-helm too. Did you feed the horses, as I told you, and rub down Sweetfoot?" "Yes," the boy said as he shook straw from the mail. "You're going to Ashford Tourney, aren't you?" "Take me with you, sir." The innkeep warned him of this. "And what might your mother say of that?" "My mother?" The boy's face wrinkled up. "My mother's dead. She wouldn't say anything." He was surprised. Wasn't the innkeeper his mother? Perhaps he was only apprenticed to her. Dunk's head was a little fuzzy from all the ale. "Are you an orphan boy?" he asked uncertainly. "Are you?" the boy asked back. "I was once," Dunk admitted, "till the old man took me in." "If you took me in, I could squire for you." "I have no need of a squire," he said. "Every knight needs a squire," the boy said. "You look as though you could use one more than most." Dunk raised his hand threateningly. "And you look as though you could use a clout in the ear, it seems. Fill me a sack of oats. I'm off for Ashford. Alone." If the boy was frightened, he hid it well. For a moment he stood there defiant, arms crossed. Just as Dunk was about to give up on him, the lad turned and went for the oats. Dunk was relieved. "A pity I couldn't. But he has a good life here at the inn. Better one than he'd have squiring for a hedge knight. Taking him would be no kindness." He could still feel the lad's disappointment, though. As he mounted Sweetfoot and took up Thunder's lead, Dunk decided that a copper penny might cheer him up. "Here, lad, for your help." He flipped the coin down at them with a smile, but the stable boy made no attempt to catch it. It fell in the dirt between his bare feet, and there he let it lie. He'll scoop it up as soon as I'm gone, Dunk thought to himself. He turned the palfrey and rode for the inn, leading the other two horses. The trees were bright with the moonlight, yet the sky was cloudless and speckled with stars. As he headed down the road, he could feel the stable boy watching his back, sullen, silent. The shadows of the afternoon were growing long when Dunk reined up on the edge of Ashford Meadow. 70 pavilions had already been risen on a grassy field. Some were small, some were large, some were square, some were round. Some of sailcloth, some of linen, some of silk, but all brightly colored, filled with long banners streaming from their center poles, brighter than a field of wild flowers with rich reds, sunny yellows, countless shades of green and blue, deep blacks, grays, and purples. The old man had ridden with some of these knights. Others Dunk knew from tales told in common rooms and round campfires. Though he'd never learned the magic of reading or writing, the old man had been relentless when it came to teaching him heraldry, often drilling him as they rode. The Nightingales belonged to Lord Caron of the Marches, as skilled with the high harp as he was with a lance. The Crowned Stag for Sir Lionel Baratheon, the Laughing Storm. Dunk picked out Tarly Huntsman, House Dondarrion's Purple Lightning, the Red Apple of the Fossaways. There rolled the Lion of the Lannisters on gold and crimson. There were the Dark Sea Turtle Greens of the Eastermont swam across pale green. The brown tent beneath a red stallion could only belong to Sir Otho Baracken, who was called the Brute of Baracken, since slaying Lord Quinton Blackwood 3 years prior at a tourney at King's Landing. Dunk heard that Sir Otho was struck so hard with the blunted long axe that he staved the visor of Lord Blackwood's helm and face beneath it. He saw some Blackwood banners as well, on the edge of the meadows, as the distant from Sir Otho as they could be. Marbrand, Mallister, Cargill, Westerling, Swan, Mullendore, Hightower, Florent, Frey, Penrose, Stokeworth, Derry, Perrin, Wild. It seemed as though every lordly house of the west and south had sent a knight or three to Ashford to see the fair maid and the brave lists in her honor. Yet however fine the pavilions were to look upon, he knew they were no place for him there. A threadbare wool cloak would be all the shelter he had tonight. While the lords and great knights dined on capons and suckling pigs, Dunk's supper would be hard, stringy pieces of salt beef. He knew full well that if he made his camp upon the gaudy field, he would need to suffer both silent scorn and open mockery. A few perhaps would treat him kindly, yet in a way that was almost worse. A Hedge Knight must hold tight to his pride. Without it, he was no more than a sellsword. I must earn my place in that company. If I fight well, some lord may take me into his house. I will ride in noble company then, and eat fresh meat every night in a castle hall, and I will raise my own pavilion at tourneys. But first I must do well. Reluctantly, he turned his back onto the tourney grounds and led his horses into the trees. On the outskirts of the great meadow, a good half-mile from the town and castle, he found a place where a bend in a brook had formed a deep pool. Reeds grew thick along its edge. A tall, leafy elm proceeded all over. The spring grass was as green as any knight's banner and soft to the touch. It was a pretty spot, yet no one had laid claim to it. This will be my pavilion, Dunk told himself. A pavilion roof with leaves greener than the banners of the Tyrell and the Easter months. His horses came first. After they'd been tended, he stripped and waded into the pool to wash away the dust of travel. A true knight is cleanly as well as godly, the old man always said, insisting that they wash themselves head to heels every time the moon turned, whether or not they smelled sour or not. Now that he was a knight, Dunk vowed he would do the same. He sat naked under the elm while he dried, enjoying the warmth of the spring air on his skin as he watched a dragonfly lazily move amongst the reeds. Why would they name it a dragonfly, he wondered. Looks nothing like a dragon. Not that Dunk had ever seen a dragon. The old man had, though. Dunk had heard the stories 100 times how Sir Erlen had been just a little boy when his grandfather had taken him to King's Landing to see the last dragon there years before it died. She'd been a green female, small and stunted, her wings withered. None of her eggs ever hatched. Some say King Aegon poisoned her, the old man would tell. The third King Aegon, that would be. Not King Darren's father, but the one they named Dragonbane, or Aegon the Unlucky. He was afraid of dragons, for he'd seen his uncle's beast devour his own mother. The summers had been shorter since the last dragon died, and the winters longer and crueler. When air began to cool, as the sun dipped below the tops of the trees, when Dunk felt goose flesh prickling his arms, he beat his tunic and breeches against the trunk of the elm tree to knock off the worst of the dirt and donned them once again. On the morrow, he could seek out the master of the games and enroll his name, but he had other matters he ought to look into tonight if he hoped to challenge. He need not study his reflection in the water to know he did not look much a knight, so he slung Sir Erlen's shield on his back to display the sigil. Hobbling the horses, Dunk left to them to crop the thick green grass beneath the elm as he set out on foot for the tourney grounds. In normal times, the meadow served as common for the folks of Ashford town across the river. But now it was transformed. A second town had sprung up overnight, a town of silk instead of sewn, larger and fairer than its elder sister. Dozens of merchants had erected their stalls along the edge of the field, selling felts and fruits, belts and boots, hides and hawks, earthenware, gemstones, pewter work, spices, feathers, and all manner of goods. Jugglers, puppeteers, magicians wandered amongst the crowd playing their trades, as did the whores and the cut-purses. Dunk had to keep a weary hand on his coin. When he caught the smell of sausages sizzling over a smoky fire, his mouth began to water. He bought one with a copper from his pouch and a horn of ale to wash it down. As he ate, he watched a painted wooden knight battle a wooden dragon. The puppeteer who worked the dragon was good to watch, too. A tall drink of water, with olive skin and black hair from Dorne. She was as slim as a lance with no breasts to speak of, but Dunk liked the way her face and her fingers made the dragon snap and slither at the end of its strings. He would have tossed the girl a copper if he had one to spare, but just of now he needed every copper. There were armorers amongst the merchants, too, as he had hoped. A Tyroshi with a forked blue beard selling ornate helms, gorgeous, fantastical things wrought in shapes of birds and beasts chased with gold and silver. Elsewhere he found a sword maker hawking cheap steel blades, and another whose work was much finer, but it was not a sword that he lacked. The man he needed was all the way down at the end of the row. A shirt of fine mail, a pair of lobstered steel gauntlets displayed on the table before him. Dunk inspected them closely. "You do good work," he said. "Done better." A stumpy man, the smith, no more than 5 feet tall, yet as wide as Dunk about the chest and arms. He had a black beard, huge hands, and no trace of humility. "I need armor for the Arnie. I need armor for the tourney," Dunk told him. "A suit of good mail with a gorget, greaves, and a great helm. The man's half helm would have fit his head, but he wanted more protection for his face than a nasal bar alone could provide. The armor looked up and down. "You're a big one, but I've armored bigger." He came out from behind the table. "Kneel. I want to measure those shoulders of yours. Aye, and that thick neck too." Dunk knelt. The armor laid a length of knotted rawhide along his shoulders, grunted, slipped it about his throat, and grunted again. "Lift your arm. No, the right arm." He grunted a third time. "Now you can stand." The inside of the leg, the thickness of the calf, the size of the waist elicited further grunts. "I have some pieces in the wagon might do for you," the man said when he was done. "Nothing birdied up with gold or silver, mind you, just good steel, strong and plain. I'll make helms that look like helms, not winged pigs or queer foreign fruits, but that'll serve you better if you take a lance to the face." "That's all I want," said Dunk. "How much?" 800 stags for you, if I'm feeling kindly." 800? It was more than I could trade you some old armor, made for a smaller man, a half helm, a mail halberd. "Steely Pate only sells his own work. But it might be I could use some of the metal if it's not too rusted. I'll take the armor and give it to you for 600. Dunk could beseech Pate to give him the armor on trust, but he knew what sort of answer that request would most likely get. He traveled with the old man long enough to learn that merchants were notoriously mistrustful of hedge knights, some of whom were little better than robbers. "I'll give you 2 silvers now, and the armor, and the rest of the coin on the morrow." The armor studied him for a moment. 2 silver buys you a day, and after that, I sell me work to the next man." Dunk scooped the stags out of his pouch, placed them on the armorer's calloused hands. "You'll get it all. I mean to be champion here." "Do ya?" Pate bit one of the coins. "And I suppose all these others just came here to cheer you on." The moon was well up by the time he turned his steps back towards his elm. Behind him, Ashford Meadow was ablaze with torchlight. The sounds of songs and laughter drifted across the gates, but his own mood was somber. He could think of only one way to raise the coin for his armor, and if he should be defeated, one victory is all I need," he muttered aloud. "That's not much to hope for." Even so, the old man would have never hoped for it. Sir Arlen had not ridden a tilt since the day he had been unhorsed by the Prince of Dragonstone in a tourney at Storm's End many years before. "It is not every man who can boast he broke 7 lances against the finest knight in the 7 kingdoms," he would say. "I could never hope to do better, so why should I try?" Dunk had suspected that Sir Arlen's age had more to do with it than the Prince of Dragonstone, but he never dared say as much. The old man had his pride, even at last. "I am quick and strong," he always said. What was true for him might not be for the other, he told himself stubbornly. He was moving through a patch of weed, chewing over his chances in his head, when he saw the flicker of firelight in the brushes. "What is this?" Dunk did not stop to think. Suddenly his sword was in his hand, and he was crashing through the grass. He burst out, roaring and cursing, only to jerk suddenly to a halt at the sight of a boy beside the campfire. "You!" He lowered his sword. "What are you doing here?" "Cooking a fish," said the bald boy. "Do you want some?" I meant, how did you get here? Did you steal a horse?" "I rode in on the back of a cart. A man who is bringing some lambs to the castle for my Lord of Ashford's table." "Well, you best see if he's gone yet, or find another cart. I won't have you here." "You can't make me go," the boy said. "Impertinent. I had enough of that inn." "I'll have no more insolence from you," Dunk warned. I should throw you over my horse right now and take you home. You need to ride all the way to King's Landing, said the boy. You'd miss the tourney. King's Landing? For a moment, Dunk wondered if he'd been being mocked, but the boy had no way of knowing if he'd been born in King's Landing as well. Another wretch from Flea Bottom. Like as not, who can blame him for wanting out of that place? He felt foolish standing over there with a sword in hand over an 8-year-old orphan. He sheathed it, glowering so the boy would see that he would suffer no nonsense. I ought to give him a good beating at last, he thought. But the child looked so pitiful he could not bring himself to hit him. He glanced around the camp. The fire was burning merrily within a neat circle of rocks. The horses had been brushed. The clothes were hanging from the elm, drying above the flames. What are those doing there? I washed them, the boy said, and I groomed the horses, made the fire, caught this fish. I would have raised your pavilion, but I couldn't find it. There's my pavilion. Dunk swept a hand above his head at the branches of the tall elm tree that loomed above him. That's a tree, the boy said, unimpressed. It's all the pavilion a true knight needs. I would sooner sleep under the stars than in some smoky tent. What if it rains? The tree will shelter me. Trees leak. Dunk laughed. So they do. Well, truth be told, I lack the coin for a pavilion. And so you'd best turn that fish, or it'll be burnt from the bottom and raw at the top. You'll never make a kitchen boy. I would if I wanted, the boy said, but he turned to the fish. What happened to your hair? Dunk asked of him. The maester shaved it off. Suddenly, self-conscious, the boy pulled up the hood of his dark brown cloak covering his head. Dunk had heard sometimes they did that to treat lice or rootworms or certain sicknesses. Are you ill? No? What's your name? Dunk, he said. The wretched boy laughed aloud as if it was the funniest thing he'd ever heard. Dunk, he said. Sir Dunk. That's no name for a knight. Is it short for Duncan? Was it? The old man had called him Dunk for so long as he could recall. He didn't remember much of his life beforehand. Duncan. Yeah, he said. Sir Duncan of... Dunk had no other name, nor any house. Sir Arlen had found him living in the wild, in the stews and alleys of Flea Bottom. He'd never known his father or mother. What was he to say? Sir Duncan of Flea Bottom? That did not sound very knightly. He could take Pennytree. But what if they asked him where it was? Dunk had never been to Pennytree, nor had the old man talked much about it. He frowned for a moment, then blurted out, Sir Duncan the Tall. He was tall. No one could dispute that, and it sounded puissant. Though the little sneak did not seem to think so. I have never heard of any Sir Duncan the Tall. Do you know every knight in the 7 kingdoms, then? The boy looked at him boldly. The good ones. I'm as good as any of them. After the tourney, they'll all know. Do you have a name, thief? The boy hesitated. Egg, he said. Dunk did not laugh. His head does look like an egg. Small boys can be cruel, and grown men as well. Egg. I should beat you bloody and send you on your way, but the truth is, I have no pavilion, and I have no squire either. If you swear to do as you're told, I'll let you serve me for the tourney. After that, we'll see. If I decide you're worth your keep, you'll have clothes on your back and food in your belly. The clothes might be rough spun, and the food salt beef and salt fish, but there might be some venison from time to time when there are no foresters about, and you will never go hungry, and I promise not to beat you, except when you deserve it. Egg smiled. Yes, my lord. Sir, Dunk corrected. I am only a hedge knight. He wondered if the old man was looking down on him. I will teach him the arts of battle, the same as you taught me. He seems a likely lad. Might be one day he'll make a great knight. The fish was still a little raw on the inside when they ate it, but the boy had not removed all the bones. And it would have tasted, but it still tasted much better than salted beef. Egg soon fell asleep beside the dying fire. Dunk lay on his back nearby, his big hands behind his head, gazing up at the night sky. He could hear distant music from the tourney grounds, half a mile away. The stars were everywhere, thousands and thousands of them. One fell as he was watching, a bright green streak that flashed across the black, then was gone. The falling star brings luck to those who see it, Dunk thought. But the rest of them are in their pavilions by now, staring up at silk instead of sky. So the luck will be mine alone. In the morning, he woke up to the sound of a cock crowing. Egg was still there, curled up beneath the old man's second-best cloak. Well, the boy did not run off during the night. That's a start. He prodded him awake with his foot. Up! There's work to do. The boy rose quickly enough, rubbing his eyes. Help me saddle, Sweetfoot. What about breakfast? There's salt beef when we're done. I'd sooner eat the horse, Egg said. Sir. You'll eat my fist if you don't do as you're told. Get the brushes. They're in the saddle sack. Yeah, that's the one. Together, they brushed Palfrey's sorrel coat, hefted Sir Arlen's best saddle over her back, and cinched it tight. Egg was a good worker once he put his mind to it, Dunk saw. I expect I'll be gone most of the day, he told the boy as he mounted. You're to stay here, put the camp in order, make sure no thieves come nosing about. Can I have a sword to run them off with? Egg asked. He had blue eyes, Dunk saw, very dark, almost purpley. His head made them seem huge somehow. No, a knife's enough. And you'd best be here when I come back, do you hear me? Rob me and run off, and I'll hunt you down, I swear I will. With dogs. You don't have any dogs, Egg pointed out. I'll get some. Just for you. He turned Sweetfoot's head towards the meadow and moved off at a brisk trot, hoping the threat would be enough to keep the boy honest. Save for the clothes on his back, the armor in his sack, the horse beneath them, everything Dunk owned in the world was back at that camp. I am a great fool to trust the boy so far, but it is no more than the old man did for me, he reflected. The mother must have sent him to me so that I can pay back my debts. As he crossed the field, he could hear the ring of hammers from the riverside, where carpenters were nailing together jousting barriers and raising lofting viewy standards. A few new pavilions were going up as well, while all the knights who'd come earlier slept off last night's revels or sat to break their fasts. Dunk could smell wood smoke, and bacon as well. To the north of the meadow flowed the Cockles went, a vassal stream that went mighty Mander. Beyond the shallow ford lay town and castle. Dunk had seen many a market in his journeys with the old man. This was prettier than most. The whitewashed houses with their thatched roofs had an inviting aspect to them. When he was smaller, he used to wonder what it would be like to live in such a place. To sleep every night with a roof over your head and wake every morning with the same walls wrapped around you. It might be that I'll know. Aye, and Egg too. It could happen. Stranger things have happened. Ashford Castle was a stone structure built with the shape of a triangle, with round towers rising 30 feet at each point, and a thick, crenellated walls running between them. Orange banners flew from the battlements, displaying the white sun and chevron sigil of its lord. The men-at-arms in orange and white livery stood outside the gates with halberds, watching people come and go, seemingly more intent on joking with a pretty milkmaid than keeping anyone out. Dunk reined up in front of the short-bearded man as he took for their captains and asked for the masters of the games. It's Plummer you want. He's the steward here. I'll show you to him. Inside the yard, a stable boy took Sweetfoot for him. Dunk swung Sir Arlen's battered shield over his shoulder and followed the guards and captains back of the stables to a turret built into an angle of the curtain wall. Steep stone steps led up the wall walk. Come enter your master's name for the lists, the captain asked as they climbed. It's my own name I'll be putting in. Is it now? Was the man smirking? Dunk was not certain. That door there. I'll leave you to it, and I'll get back to my post. When Dunk pushed up the door open, the steward was sitting behind a trestle table, scratching a piece of parchment with a quill. He had thinning gray hair, a narrow pinched face. Yes, he said. What do you want, man? Dunk pulled the door shut. Are you Plummer the steward? I've come for the tourney to enter the lists. Plummer pursed his lips. My lord's tourney is a contest for knights. Are you a knight? He nodded, wondering if his ears were red. A knight with a name, perhaps? Dunk.
Why did he say that?
Sir Duncan the Tall.
And where might you be from, Sir Duncan the Tall?
Every place. I was squire to Sir Arlen of Pennytree since I was 5 or 6. This is his shield. He showed it off to the steward. He was coming to the tourney, but he caught a chill and died, so I came instead. He knighted me before he passed with his own sword. Dunk drew the longsword and laid it on the scarred wooden table between them. The master of the lists gave the blade no more than a glance. A sword it is for certainty. I've never heard of this Arlen of Pennytree, though. You were a squire to him, you say? He always said he meant for me to be a knight as he was. When he was dying, he called for his longsword and bade me kneel. He touched me on my right shoulder once, my left, said some words, and when he got up, I was a knight. The man Plummer rubbed his nose. Any knight can make a knight, it is true, though it is more customary to stand a vigil and be appointed by a septon before taking your vows. Were there any witnesses? Only a robin upon the thorn tree. I heard the old man saying the words. He charged me to be a good knight and true, obey the 7 gods, defend the weak and the innocent, serve my lord faithfully, defend the realm with all my might, and I swore that I would. No doubt, Plummer said. Did not deign him, nor call him sir. Dunk could not help but notice. I shall need to consult with Lord Ashford. Will you or your late maester be known by any of the good knights here assembled? Dunk thought a moment. There was a pavilion flying the banner of House Donderian. The black and purple lightning? That would be Sir Manfred of the house. Sir Arlen served his father in Dorne 3 years past. Sir Manfred might remember me. I would advise you speak with him. If he vouch for you, bring him here with you on the morrow at the same time. As you say, my lord. He started for the door. Sir Duncan? The steward called him. Dunk turned back. You are aware that those vanquished in tourney forfeit their arms, armor, and horses to the victors, and must need ransom them back. I know. And you have the coin to pay such ransom? Now he knew his ears were red. I won't have need of the coin, he said, praying it was true. All I need is one victory. If I win my first tilt, I'll have the loser's armor and horse, or his gold, and I can stand a loss myself. He walked slowly down the steps, reluctant to get on with what he must do next. In the yard, he collared one of the stable boys. Must speak with Lord Ashford's masters of horse. I'll find him for you. It was cool and dim in the stables. An unruly gray stallion snapped at him as he passed by, but only Sweetfoot whickered softly and nuzzled at his hand and raised her nose. You're a good girl, aren't you? He murmured. The old man always said knights should never love a horse, since more than a few of them were likely to die under him. But he had never needed his own counsel either. Dunk had often seen him spend his last copper on an apple for Chestnut or some oats for Sweetfoot and Thunder. The palfrey had been Sir Arlen's riding horse. She'd borne him tirelessly over thousands of miles, all up and down the 7 kingdoms. Dunk felt as though he was betraying an old friend, but what choice did he have? Chestnut was too old to be worth much of anything, and Thunder must carry him in the lists. Some time passed before the masters of horse deigned to appear. As he waited, Dunk heard a blare of trumpets from the walls and voices in the yard. Curious, He led Sweetfoot to the stable door to see what was happening. A large party of knights and mounted archers poured through the gates. 100 men at least, riding, some of them the most splendid horses Dunk had ever seen. Some great lord must have come. He grabbed the arm of a stable boy as he ran past. Who are they? The boy looked at him queerly. Can't you see the banners? He freed retched and hurried off. Banners? Dunk turned his head, and a gust of wind lifted the black silk pennant atop the tall staff, and the fierce three-headed black dragon of House Targaryen seemed to spread its wings, breathing scarlet fire. The banner was a tall knight in white scale armor chased with gold, a pure white cloak streaming from his shoulders. The other two are riders armored in white from head to heel as well. Kingsguard with the royal knights and the banners? Small wonder Lord Ashford and his sons came hurrying out the door of the keep, and the fair maid too, a short girl with yellow hair and a round pink face. It does not seem fair to me, Dunk thought. The puppet girl was prettier. Boy, let go of that nag and see to my horse. The rider had dismounted in front of the stables. He's talking to me, he realized. I am not a stable boy, my lord. Not clever enough? The speaker wore a black cloak bordered in scarlet satin, but underneath was a raiment bright as flame, all reds and yellows and golds, slim and straight as a dirk. Though only of middling height, he was, near Dunk's own age. Curls of silver gold hair framed a face sculpted of imperious, high brow, sharp cheekbones, straight nose, pale smooth skin without a blemish. His eyes were a deep violet. If you cannot manage a horse, fetch me some wine and a pretty wench. Look, I'm no serving man. I have the honor to be a knight. Knighthood has fallen on sad days, said the princeling. And then one of the stable boys came rushing up, and he turned away to hand the reins of his palfrey, a splendid blood bay. Dunk had forgotten in an instant. Relieved, he slunk back inside the stable to wait for the masters of horse. He felt ill at ease enough around lords in their pavilions. He had no business speaking to princes. That beautiful stripling was a prince, he had no doubt. The Targaryens were the blood of lost Valyria across the seas, and their silver gold hair and violet eyes set them apart from the common men. Dunk knew Prince Baelor was older, but the youth might well have been one of his sons, Valar, who was often called the young prince to set him apart from his father, or Materes, the even younger prince, as old Lord Swansfool had once named him. There were other princelings as well cousins to Valar and Materes. King Daeron the Good had 4 grown sons, 3 with their own. The line of dragon kings had almost died out during his father's day, but it was commonly said that Daeron II and his sons had left it to secure for all time. You, man, you asked for me. Lord Ashford's master of horse, a red-faced, made redder by his orange livery, a brisk manner of speaking. What is it? I have no time for... I want to sell this palfrey. Dunk broke in quickly before the man could dismiss him. She's a good horse, sure of foot. I have no time. I tell you, the man gave Sweetfoot no more of a glance. My lord of Ashford have no much. Take her, Henley will give you a silver 3 for... He was that quick he was turning away. Thank you kindly, my lord. My lord, has the king come? The master of horse laughed at him. No, thanks the gods. In this infestation of princes is trial enough. Where am I to find stalls for all these animals? And fodder? He strode off, shouting at his stable boys. By the time Dunk had left the stable, Lord Ashford had escorted his princely guests into the town hall. but 2 of the Kingsguard knights in white armor and snowy cloaks still lingered in the yard, talking with their captains of the guard. Dunk halted before them. "My lords, I am Sir Duncan the Tall." "Well met, Sir Duncan," answered the bigger of the white knights. "I am Sir Roland Craycall. This is my sword brother, Sir Donald of Duskendale." The 7 champions of the King's Guard were the most poison warriors in all of the 7 kingdoms, saving only perhaps the Crown Prince, Baelor Breakspear himself. "Have you come to enter the lists?" Dunk asked anxiously. "It would not be befitting of us for us to ride against those we are sworn to protect," answered Sir Donald, red of hair and beard. "Prince Valor has the honor to be one of Lady Ashford's champions. And 2 of his cousins mean to challenge. The rest of us are just merely here to watch." Relieved, Dunk thanked the White Knights for their kindness and rode out through the castle gates before another prince should think to accost him. 3 princelings? He pondered as he turned the palfrey towards the streets of Ashford town. Valor was the eldest son of Prince Baelor, second in line to the Iron Throne. But Dunk did not know much of his father's fabled prowess with a lance and sword he might have inherited. About the other princes, he knew even less. What will I do if I have to ride against a prince? Will I be allowed to challenge one so highborn? He did not know the answer. The old man had often said he was thick as a castle wall, and just now he felt it too. Henley liked the look of Sweetfoot well enough until he heard Dunk wanted to sell her. Then all the stablemen could see were her faults. He offered 300 silvers. Dunk said he must have 3,000. After arguing and cursing, they settled at 750 silver stags. That was a deal closer to Henley's starting price than to Dunk's, which made him feel like the loser of this tilt. But the stableman would go no higher, so in the end, he had no choice but to yield. A second argument began when Dunk declared that the price did not include the saddle, and Henley insisted that it did. Finally, it was settled, and Henley left to fetch the coin. Dunk stroked Sweetfoot's mane and told her to be brave. "I promise, if I win, I'll come and buy you back again. I promise." He had no doubt that all the palfrey's flaws would vanish in the intervening days, and she would be worth twice what she was today. The stableman gave him 3 gold pieces, and the rest in silver. Dunk bit one of the gold coins and smiled. He never tasted gold, nor handled it before. Dragons, men called it, since they were stamped with the 3-headed dragon of House Targaryen on one side. The other bore the likeness of the king. 2 of the coins Henley gave him had King Darren's face. The other was an older worn and showed a different man. There was a name under his head, but Dunk could not read the letters. Gold had been shaved its edges off too. The gold had its edges shaved off too. He pointed that out to Henley loudly, and the stableman grumbled and handed a few other silvers and a fistful of coppers to make up for the weight. Dunk handled a few of the coppers, pressed right, nodded at Sweetfoot. "That's for her. See that she has some oats tonight." "Aye, and an apple too." With the shield on his arm, and the sack of old armor slung over his old shoulder, Dunk set out on foot through the sunny streets of Ashford town. The heft of all that coin in his pouch made him feel queer, almost giddy on one hand and anxious on the other. The old man had never trusted him with more than a coin or 2 at a time. He could live a year on this much money. Aye, and then what will I do when it's gone? Sell thunder? That road ends in beggary or outlawry. This chance will never come again. I must risk this all. By the time he splashed back across the ford to the south bank of Cockleswent, the morning was almost done, and the tourney grounds had come to life once more. The wine sellers and sausage makers were doing a brisk trade. A dancing bear was shuffling alongside to his masters, playing. A singer sang, the bear, the maiden's fair." The jugglers juggling, and the puppeteers were just finishing another fight. Dunk stopped to watch the wooden dragon slain. When the puppet knight cut its head off, red sawdust spilled onto the grass, and he laughed aloud and threw the girl 2 coppers. "One for last night," he called. She caught the coppers in the air and threw him back a smile as sweet as any he had ever seen. Is it me she smiles at? Or the coin? Dunk had never been with a girl, and the thought made him nervous. Once 3 years passed, when the old man's purse was full after a year in the service of blind Lord Forrent, he'd told Dunk the time had come to take him to a brothel and make a man of him. He'd been drunk, and when he was sober he did not remember, though, and Dunk was too embarrassed to remind him. He's not certain he wanted a whore anyways. If he could have been with a high-born maid like a proper knight, he would have wanted one who at least liked him more than his silver. Will you drink a horn of ale? He asked the puppet girl, as she was scooping the sawdust up back into her dragon. With me, I mean. Or a sausage. I had a sausage last night. It was good. They're made of pork, I think. I thank you, my lord, but I have another show. The girl rose and ran off to the fierce fat Dornishman who worked the puppet knight, while Dunk stood there feeling stupid. He liked the way she ran, though. A pretty girl, and tall. I would not have to kneel to kiss that one. Dunk knew how to kiss. A tavern girl showed him one night in Lannisport a year ago, but she'd been so short she had to sit on the table to reach his lips. A memory of it burns his ears. What a great fool it was. It was jousting he should be thinking about, not kissing. Lord Ashfur's carpenters were whitewashing the waist-high wooden barriers that separate the jousters. Dunk watched them work a while. There were 5 lanes, arrayed north to south, so none of the competitors would ride with sun in his eyes. A 3-tiered viewing stand had been raised on the eastern side of the lists, with an orange canopy to shield the lords and ladies from rain and sun. Most would sit on benches, but 4 high-backed chairs had been erected in the center of the platform for Lord Ashford, the fair maid, and the visiting princes. On the eastern verge of the meadow, a quintain had been set up, and a dozen knights were tilting at it, sending the polearm spinning every time it struck the splintered shield suspended from one end. Dunk watched the brood of Bracken take his turn, then Lord Cairn of the Marches. I do not have as good a seat as any of them, he thought uneasily. Elsewhere, the men were trading afoot, going at each other with wooden swords, while their squires stood shouting rebelled advice. Dunk watched a stocky youth trying to hold off a muscular knight who seemed lithe and quick as a mountain cat. Both had the red apple of Fossaways painted on their shields, but the younger man's was soon hacked and chipped to pieces. Here's an apple that's not ripe yet, the older said as he slammed the other's helm. The younger Fossaway was bruised and bloody by the time he yielded, but his foe was hardly winded. He raised the visor, looked about, saw Dunk. You there! Yes, you. Big one. Knight of the Winged Chalice. Is that a long sword you wear? It is mine, by rights, Dunk said defensively. I'm Sir Duncan the Tall. And I, Stephen Fossawary. Would you care to try me, Sir Duncan the Tall? It would be good to have someone new to cross swords with. My cousin's not ripe yet, as you've seen. Do it, Sir Duncan, urged the beaten Fossawary as he removed his... I may not be right, but my cousin is rotten to the core. Knock the seeds out of him. Dunk shook his head. Why were these lordlings involving him in their quarrel? He wanted no part of it. I thank you, sirs, but I have matters to attend. He was uncomfortable carrying so much coin. The sooner he paid Steely Pate and got his armor, the happier he would be. Sir Stephen looked at him scornfully. The Hedge Knight has matters to attend. He glanced about and found another likely opponent loitering nearby. Sir Grants, well met! Come and try me. I know every feeble trick my cousin Raymond has mastered, and it seems that Sir Duncan must return to the hedges. Come, come. Dunk stalked away, red-faced. He did not have many tricks himself, feeble or otherwise, and he did not want anybody to see him fight until the tourney. The old man said it's better you know your foe, the easier it is to best him. Knights like Sir Stephen had sharp eyes to find a man's weakness at a glance. Dunk was strong and quick, and his weight and reach were in his favor, but he did not believe for a moment that his skills were equal to these others. Sir Arlen had taught him to be the best that he could, but the old man had never been the greatest of knights, even when young. Great knights did not live in the hedges, nor did they die by the sides of a muddy road. That's not going to happen to me, Dunk vowed. I will show them that I can be more than just a hedge knight. Sir Duncan? The younger Fossaway caught up to him in a catch. I should not have urged you to try my cousin. I was angry with his arrogance, and you're so large, and I thought, well, what was wrong of me? You wear no armor. He would have broken your hand if he could, or a knee. He likes to batter men in the training yard, so they'll be bruised and vulnerable should he meet them in the lists. He did not break you. No, but I'm his own blood. Though he is the senior branch of the apple tree, and he never ceases to remind me. I'm Lord Raymond Fossaway. Well met. Will your cousin ride in the tourney? He will for certainly. As to me, well, I would that I could. I'm only a squire yet. My cousin has promised to knight me, but insists that I'm not ripe yet. Raymond had a square face, a pug nose, short woolly hair, but his smile was engaging. You have the look of a challenger, it seems to me. Whose shield do you mean to strike? It makes no difference, said Dunk. That's what you were supposed to say, though it made all the difference in the world. I will not enter the lists until the third day. By then some of the champions will have fallen. Well, may the warrior smile upon you, sir. And you. If he is only a squire, what business do I have being a knight? One of us is the fool. A silver in Dunk's pouch clinked with every step, but he knew he could lose it all in a heartbeat. Even the rules of this tourney worked against him, making it very unlikely that he would face a green or a feeble foe. There were a dozen different forms of a tourney might follow, according to a whim of a lord who hosted it. Some were mock battles between teams of knights, others wild melees where the glory went to the last fighter standing, or individual combats were the rule, pairings sometimes determined by the lot and sometimes by the master of the games. Ashford was staging this tourney to celebrate his daughter's 13th name day. The fair maid would sit by her father's side as the reigning queen of love and beauty. 5 champions wearing her favors would defend her. All others must perforce be challengers, but any man who could defeat one of the champions would take his place and stand as a champion himself until such a time that another challenger unseated him. At the end of 3 days of jousting, the 5 who remained would determine whether the fair maid retained the crown of love and beauty, or whether another would wear it in her place. Dunk stared at the grassy lists and the empty chairs on the viewing stand and pondered his chances. One victory was all he needed, and he could name himself one of the champions of Ashford Meadow, if only for an hour. The old man had lived nigh on 60 years, and he had never been a champion. It is not too much to hope for if the gods are good. He thought of all the songs he had heard, songs of blind Simeon Star-Eyes and noble Serwyn in the Mere Shield, Prince Aemon the Dragon Knight, Ryam Redwine, and Florian the Fool. They'd all won victories against foes far more terrible than any he would face. But they were great heroes, brave men of noble birth, except for Florian. What am I? Dunk of Fleabottom? Or Sir Duncan the Tall? He supposed he would learn the truth soon enough. He hefted the sack of armor, turned his feet to the merchant stalls in search of Steely Pete. Egg worked manfully at the campsite. Dunk was pleased. He'd been half afraid his squire would run off again. Did you get a good price for your palfrey? The boy asked. How'd you know I sold her? You rode off and walked back, and if robbers had stolen her, you'd be more angry than you are. I got enough for this. Dunk took out his new armor to show the boy. If you're ever to be a knight, you'll know good steel from bad. Look here, this is fine work. This mail is double chain. Each link bound by 2 others, you see? Gives more protection than single chain. In this helm, Steely Pete's rounded top. See how it curves? A sword or an axe will slide off it, where on a flat top it might bite through the helm. Dunk lowered the great helm over his head. How does it look? There's no visors. Egg points out. There's air holes. Visors are a point of weakness. Steely Pate had said as much. If you knew how many knights had been taken out by an arrow in the eye when they lifted their visor for a suck of cool air, you'd never want one. There's no crest either. It's just plain, said Egg. Dunk lifted off the helm. Plain is fine for the likes of me. See how bright the steel is? It'll be your task to keep it that way. You know how to scour mail. In a barrel of sand, but you don't have a barrel. Did you buy a pavilion too, sir? I didn't get that good of a price. This boy is too bold for his own good. I had to beat that out of him. He knew he would not, though. He liked the boldness. He needed to be bolder himself. My squire's braver than I am, and far more clever. You did well, Egg. Dunk told him. On the morrow, you'll come with me. Have a look at the tourney grounds. We'll buy oats for the horses, fresh bread for ourselves, maybe a bit of cheese. They were selling cheese at one of the stalls. I won't need to go into the castle, will I? Why not? One day I mean to live in a castle. I hope to win the place above the salt before I'm done. The boy said nothing. Perhaps he fears to enter a lord's hall. Dunk reflected. There's no more than might be expected. That'll grow out of him in time. He went back to admiring his armor and wondering how he would wear it. We are going to take 2 moments, and we are going to make some coffee really quickly. I hope you are currently enjoying The Hedge Knight by George R.R. Martin. We will keep reading in just a moment. Thank you, and we have returned. Sir Manfred was a thin man with a sour look on his face. He wore a black surcoat slashed with the purple lightning of House Dondarrion, but Dunk would have remembered him anyway by his unruly red-colored mane. Sir Arlen served your father when he and Lord Karen burned the Vulture King out of the Red Mountains, he said from one knee. I was only a boy for him, but I squired for him. Sir Arlen of Pennytree? Sir Manfred scowled. No, I know I'm not. Nor you, boy. Dunk showed him the old man's shield. This was his sigil, the Winged Chalice. My father took 800 knights and nearly 4,000 foot into those mountains. I cannot be expected to remember every one of them, nor the shields that they carried. It may be that you are with us, but... Sir Manfred shrugged. He was struck speechless for an instant. The old man took a wound in your father's service. How could you have forgotten him? They will not allow me to challenge unless some knight or lord can vouch for me. And what is that to me? Said Sir Manfred. I've given you enough of my time, sir. If he went back to the castle without Sir Manfred, he was lost. Dunk eyed the purple lightning embroidered across the black wool of Sir Manfred's surcoat. I remember your father telling the camp how your house got its sigil. One stormy night in the line, you bore your message across the Dornish marches, and an arrow killed the horse beneath them, spilled on the ground. 2 Dornishmen came out of the darkness in ringmail and crested helms. His sword broken beneath him when he fell, but when he saw that, he thought he was doomed. But as the Dornishmen closed in on him to cut him down, lightning cracked from the sky. It was bright and burning purple and split, striking the Dornishmen in their steel and killing them both where they stood. The message gave the Storm King victory over the Dornish, and in thanks he raised the messenger to lordship. He was the first Lord Dondarrion, so he took his arms a forked purple lightning bolt on a black field powdered with stars. If Dunk thought the tale would impress Sir Manfred, he could not have been more wrong. Every potboy and groom who has ever served my father hears that story sooner or later. Knowing it does not make you a knight. Be gone with you, sir. It was with a leaden heart that Dunk returned to Ashford Castle, wondering what he might say so that Plummer would grant him the right of challenge. The steward was not in his turret chamber, however. A guard told him he might be found in some great hall. Shall I wait here? Dunk asked. How long will he be? How should I know? Do what you please. The great halls were not so great, as halls went, but Ashford was a small castle. Dunk entered through a side door and spied the steward at once. He was standing with Lord Ashford and a dozen men at the top of the hall. He walked towards them beneath a wall hung with tapestries of fruits and flowers. More concerned if they were your sons, I'll wager. An angry man was saying as Dunk approached. His hair straight, his square-cut beard were so fair they seemed white in the dimness of the hall. But as he got closer, he saw, in truth, a palely silver touched with gold. Darren has done this before, another replied. Plummer was standing as so to block Dunk's view of the speaker. You should never have commanded him to enter the lists. He belongs on a tourney field no more than Ares does, or Rhaegal. By which you mean he'd sooner ride into a whore than a horse? First man said, thickly built and powerful, the prince. He was surely a prince, wearing a leather brigandine covered with silver studs beneath a heavy coat black trimmed with ermine. Pox scars marked his cheeks, only partly concealed by his silvery beard. I do not need to be reminded of my son's failings, brother. He is only 18 years. He can change. He will change. Gods be damned, or I swear I will see him dead. Don't be an utter fool. Darren is what he is, but he's still your blood and mine. I have no doubt Sir Roland would turn up him and Aegon. When the tourney's over, perhaps. Arion is here. He is better than Daron in He's better at lance than Daron in any case, if it is the tourney that concerns you. Dunk could see the speaker now. He was seated in the high seat, a sheaf of parchments in one hand, Lord Ashford hovering at his shoulders. Even seated, he looked to be a head taller than the other, to judge from the long, straight legs stretched out before him. His short-cropped hair was dark and peppered gray, his strong jaw clean-shaven. His nose looked as though it had been broken more than once. Though he was dressed very plainly, in a green doublet, brown mantle, and scuffed boots, there was a weight to him, a sense of power and certainty. It came to Dunk that he had walked in on something that he had not ever have heard. I had best go, come back later when they're done, he decided, but it was too late. The prince with the silvery beard took note of him. Who are you?
And what do you mean by bursting in on us?
He demanded harshly. He is the knight that our good steward was expecting, the seated man said, smiling at Dunk in a way that suggested he'd been aware of him the whole time.
You and I are the intruders here, brother. Come, get closer, sir.
Dunk edged forward, uncertain as to what was expected of him. He looked at Plummer, but got no help there. The pinch-faced steward, who'd been so forceful yesterday, now stood silent, studying the stones of the floor. My lords, he said, I asked Sir Manfred Dundarian to vouch for me so that I might enter the list, but he refuses. He says he knows me not. Sir Arlen served him, though. I swear it. I have a sword and shield. A sword and shield do not make a knight, declared Lord Ashford, a big, bald man with a round face. Plummer has spoken to me of you. Even if we accept these arms belong to Sir Arlen of Pennytree, it may be that you found him dead and stole them, unless you have some proof of what you say, or some writings, or... I remember Sir Arlen of Pennytree, the man in the high seat said quietly. Never won a tourney that I know of, but he never shamed himself either. At King's Landing 16 years ago, he overthrew Lord Stokeworth and the bastard of Harrenhal in the melee, and many years before at Lannisport, he unhorsed the Grey Lion himself. The lion was not so grey then, to be sure. He told me about that many a times. The tall man studied him. Then you will remember the Grey Lion's true name, I have no doubt. For a moment, there was nothing in Dunk's head at all. 1,000 times he'd heard that tale. 1,000 times the lion, his name. He was near despair when suddenly, Sir Daemon Lannister, the Grey Lion, he's Lord of Casterly Rock now. So he is, said the tall man pleasantly. And he enters the lists on the morrow. He rattled the sheaf of papers. How can you possibly remember some insignificant hedge knight who chanced to unhorse Daemon Lannister 16 years ago? Said the prince with the silvery beard, frowning. I'll make practice to learn that I can all of my foes. Why would you deign to joust with a head knight who's 9 years past at the Storm's Edge? Lord Baratheon held a hastitude to celebrate the birth of a grandson. The lots made Sir Arlen my opponent in the first hilt. We broke 4 lances before I finally unhorsed him. 7! Insisted Dunk. And it was against the Prince of Dragonstone. No sooner as the words came out than he wanted them to be back. Dunk the lunk, thick as a castle, he could hear the old man chiding. So it was. The prince with the broken nose smiled gently. Tales tend to grow in telling, I know. Do not think ill of your old master, but it was only 4 lances, I fear. Dunk was grateful that the hall was dim. His ears were... No, my lord. That's wrong, too. Your grace. He fell to his knees, lowered his head. As you say, I meant 4. The old man... he used to say I was thick as a castle wall and as slow as the Oroks. And as strong as the Oroks, by the look of you. Baelor Breakspear said, No harm was done, sir. Rise. Dunk got to his feet, wondering if he should keep his head down or if he was allowed to look the prince in the face. I am speaking with Baelor Targaryen, Prince of Dragonstone, Hand of the King, heir apparent to the Iron Throne of Aegon the Conqueror. You gave him his horseback and his armor and took no ransom, I remember. He stammered. The old Sir Arlen, he told me you were the soul of chivalry and that one day the 7 kingdoms would be safe in your hands. Not for many a year still, I pray, Prince Baelor said. No, Dunk said, horrified. He almost said, I didn't mean that the king should die, but he stopped himself in time. I'm sorry, my lord, your grace, I mean. Belatedly, he recalled the stocky man with the silver beard had addressed Baelor as brother. He is the blood of the dragon as well, damn me a fool. Wait, he could only be Prince Maekar, the youngest of Darren's 4 sons. Prince Ares was bookish, and Prince Rhaegal was mad, meek, and sickly. Neither was likely to cross half the realm to attend a tourney, but Maekar was said to have been a redoubtable warrior in his own right, though ever in the shadow of his eldest brother. You wish to enter the lists, is that it? Prince Baelor asked. Decision rests with the master of the games, but I see no reason to deny you. The steward inclined his head. As you say, my lord. Dunk stammered out, thanks, but Prince Maekar cut him off. Very well, sir, you are grateful. Now be off with you. You must forgive my brother, said Prince Baelor. 2 of his sons have gone astray on their way here, and he fears for them. The spring rains have swollen many of the streams. Perhaps the princes are only delayed. I did not come here to take counsel from a hedge knight, Prince Maekar declared to his brother. You may go, Sir Prince Baelor told Dunk, not unkindly. Yes, my lord, he bowed and turned, but before he could get away, the prince called after him. Sir, one more thing. You are not of Sir Arlen's blood? Yes, my lord. No, I'm not. The prince nodded at the battered shield Dunk carried, and then the winged chalice upon his face. By law, only a true-born son is entitled to inherit a knight's arms. You need find a no device, sir. A sigil of your own. I will, said Dunk. Thank you again, your grace. I will fight bravely, you'll see. As brave as Baelor Breakspear, an old man would often say. The wine settlers and sausage makers were doing a brisk trade, and the whores walked brazenly amongst the stalls and pavilions. Some were pretty enough, the red-haired girls in particular. He could not help staring at her breasts. The way they moved under her loose shifted as she sauntered past. He thought of the silver in his pouch. I could have her if I liked. She'd think of the clink of my coin well enough. I could take her back to my camp and have her all night if I wanted. He'd never lain with a woman, and for all he knew, he might die in his first tilt. Tourneys could be dangerous, but a horse could be dangerous too. The old man warned him of that. She might rob me while I slept, and what would I do then? When the red-haired girl glanced back over her shoulder at him, Dunk shook his head and walked away. He found Egg at the puppet show, sitting cross-legged on the ground, with the hood of his cloak pulled all the way forward to hide his baldness. The boy had been afraid to enter the castle, which Dunk put down as equal parts shyness and shame. He did not think himself worthy to mingle with the lords and ladies, let alone great princes. It had been the same with him when he was little. The world beyond Flea Bottom had seemed frightening as it was exciting. Egg needs time, that's all. For the present, it seemed kinder to give the lad a few coppers and let him enjoy himself amongst the stalls than to drag him unwillingly into the castle. The morning puppeteers were doing the tales of Florian and Yonkill. The fat Dornish woman was working Florian in his armor made of motley, while the tall girl held Yonkill's strings. You are no knight, she was saying as the puppet's mouth moved up and down. I know you. You are Florian the Fool. I am, my lady, the puppet answered, kneeling. As great a fool as ever lived, and as great a knight as well. A fool and a knight? Said Yonkill. I've never heard of such a thing. Sweet lady, said Florian, all men are fools, and all men are knights, where women are concerned. It was a good show, sad and sweet, both sprightly sword fighting at the ending, and a nicely painted giant. When it was over, the fat woman went amongst the crowd to collect coins while the girl packed away the puppets. Dunk collected Egg and went up to her. My lord, she said, with a sideways glance and half a smile. She was a head shorter than he was, but still taller than any girl he had ever seen. That was good, Egg enthused. I like how you make them move, and Yonkill, and the dragon, and all. I saw a puppet show last year, but they moved all jerky. Yours are so smooth. Thank you, she said to the boy politely. Dunk said, Your figures are well carved, too. The dragon especially. A fearsome beast. You make them yourself? She nodded. My uncle does the carving. I paint them. Could you paint something for me? I have the coin to pay. He slipped the shield off of his shoulder and turned it to show her. I need to paint something over the chalice. The girl glanced at the shield. What would you want painted? Dunk had not considered that. The old man's winged chalice. He had dunked the long, thick. I'm not certain. His ears were turning red. He realized miserable. You must think I'm an utter fool. All men are fools, and all men are knights. She smiled. What color do you have? He asked, hoping that might give him an idea. I can mix paints to make any color I want. The old man's brown had always seemed drab to Dunk. The field should be the color of a sunset. The old man liked sunsets. And the device. An elm tree, said Egg. A big elm tree like the one by the pond with a brown trunk and green branches. Yes, that would serve. An elm tree. But with a shooting star above. Could you do that? The girl nodded. Give me the shield. I'll paint it this very night, and I'll have it back to you on the morrow. Dunk handed it over. I am called Sir Duncan the Tall. I'm Tansel, she laughed. Tansel Too Tall, the boys used to call me. You're not too tall, Dunk blurted out. You're just right for... He realized what he'd been about to say and blushed furiously. For what? Tansel said, cocking her head inquisitively. Puppets! He finished lamely. The first day of the tourney dawned bright and clear. Dunk bought a sack full of foodstuffs so they were able to break fast on goose, eggs, fried bread, and bacon. But when the food was cooked, he found he had no appetite. His belly felt hard as a rock, even though he knew he would not ride today. The right of first challenge would go to the knights of higher birth and greater renown, to the lords and their sons and champions from other tourneys. Egg chattered all through breakfast, talking of this man and that man and how they might face. He was not japing at me when he said he knew every good knight in the 7 kingdoms, Dunk thought ruefully. He found it humbling to listen so intently to the words of a scrawny orphan boy, but Egg's knowledge might serve him should he face one of these men in a tilt. The meadow was churning masses of people, all trying to elbow their way closer for a better view. Dunk was a good elbower, as good as any, and bigger than most. He squirmed forward to rise about 6 yards from the fence. When Egg complained, all he could see were arses. Dunk sat the boy on his shoulder. Across the field, the viewing stands was filling up with high-born lords and ladies, a few rich townfolk, and score knights who decided not to compete today. Of Prince Maekar he saw no sign, but he recognized Prince Baelor of Lord Ashford's side. Sunlight flashed golden off the shoulders clasp that held his cloak and slim coronet about his temples, but otherwise he dressed far more simply than most of the other lords. He does not look Targaryen in truth, with that dark hair. He said to Egg. It said he favors his mother. The boy reminded him. She was a Dornish princess. The 5 champions had raised their pavilions at the north end of the lists with the rivers behind them. The smallest 2 were orange, and their shields hung outside their doors displayed the white, sun, and chevron. Those would be Lord Ashford's sons, Andro and Robert, brothers to the fair maid. Dunk had never heard other knights speak of their prowess, which meant they would likely be the first to fall. Beside the orange pavilion stood one of the dyed deep green, much larger. The golden rose was that of Highgarden, flapped above it. At the same device was emblazoned the great green shield outside the door. That's Leo Tyrell, Lord of Highgarden, said Egg. I knew that one, Dunk said, irritated. The old man and I served at High Garden before you were ever born. He hardly remembered that year himself, but Sir Arlen often spoke that Leo Longthorn, as he was sometimes called, a peerless jouster, for all the silver in his hair. That must be Lord Leo in the tent, the slender grey beard and green and gold. Yep, I saw him at King's Landing once. He's not one you'll want to see challenged, sir. Boy, I do not require your counsel on who to challenge. The fourth pavilion was sewn together from diamond-shaped pieces of cloth, alternating red and white. Dunk did not know the colors, but Egg said they belonged to a knight from the Vale of Arryn, Sir Humphrey Harding. He won a great melee at Maidenpool last year, and overthrew Sir Donald of Duskendale and the Lords of Arryn and Royce in the lists. The last pavilion was that of Prince Valar's. Black silk it was, with a long, pointed scarlet pennons hanging from its roof like long red flames. The shield on its stand was glossy black, emblazoned with the three-headed dragon of House Targaryen. One of the Kingsguard knights stood beside it, his shining white armor stark against the black cloth of the tent. Seeing him there, Dunk wondered whether any of the challengers would dare to touch the dragon shield. Valar was the king's grandson. After all, son to Baelor Breakspear. He need not have worried. When the horns blew to summon the challengers, all 5 of the maids were called forth to defend her. Dunk could hear the murmur excitement in the crowds as the challengers appeared one by one at the south end of the lists. Heralds boomed out of the name of each knight in turn. They paused before viewing stand to dip their lances in salute of Lord Ashford, Prince Baelor, and the fair maids, then circled north at the end of the field to select their opponents. The Grey Lion of Casterly Rock struck the shield of Lord Tyrell, while his golden-haired Sir Tybalt Lannister challenged Lord Ashford's eldest son. Lord Tully of Riverrun tapped the diamond pattern of Sir Humphrey Harding. Sir Abelard Hightower knocked upon Valar. The younger of Ashford was called out by Sir Lionel Baratheon, the knight they call the Laughing Storm. The challengers trotted back and forth to the south ends of the list to await their foes. Sir Abelard in silver and smoke colors, a stone watchtower on a shield crowned with fire. The 2 Lannisters, all crimson, bearing the golden lion of Casterly Rock. The Laughing Storm shining in cloth of gold, a black stag on the breast of the shield, and a rack of iron antlers on his helm. Lord Tully wearing a striped blue and red cloak clasped in silver shroud at each shoulder. They pointed their 12-foot lances skyward, the gusty wind snapping, tugging at the pennons. At the north end of the field, the squires held brightly barded destriers for the champions to mount. They donned their helms, took their lance and shield, in splendor, the equal of their foes. The Ashfords' billowing orange silks, Humphrey's red and white diamonds, Lord Leo on his white charger with green satin trappings patterned with golden rosin, and of course Valar Targaryen. The young prince's horse was black as night, to match the color of his armor, lance, shield, and trappings. Atop his helm was a gleaming 3-headed dragon, wings spread, enameled in a rich red, its twin painted upon the glossy black surface of his shield. Each defender had a wisp of orange silk knotted about an arm, favors bestowed by the maiden. As the champions trotted into position, Ashford Meadows grew almost still. Then a horn sounded, and stillness turned in tumult in half a heartbeat. 10 pairs of gilded spurs drove into the flanks of 10 great war horses. Thousands voices began to scream and shout. 40 iron-shod hoofs tore into the grass. 10 lances dipped and steadied. The field seemed almost to shake, and the champions and challengers came together in a rending crash of wood and steel. In an instant, the riders were beyond each other, wheeling about for another pass. Lord Tully reeled in his saddle, but managed to keep his seat. When the commons realized that all 10 of the lances had broken, a great uproar of approval went up. It was a splendid omen of the success of this tourney and a testament to the skill of these competitors. Squires handed fresh lances to the jousters to replace the broken ones they cast aside, and once more the spurs dug deep. Dunk could feel the trembling earth beneath the soles. Atop his shoulders, Dunk shouted happily, waving his pipe stem arms. The young prince passed nearest to them. Dunk saw the point of the black lance kiss the watchtower upon his foe's shields, then slide off to slam into his chest. Even as Sir Ablar's own lance burst into splinters against Valor's breastplate, the gray stallion and the silver smoke trappings reared with the force of the impact, and Sir Ablar was lifted from his stirrups and dashed violently to the ground. Lord Tully was down as well, unhorsed by Sir Humford Harding, but he sprang up and drew longsword, and Sir Humphrey cast aside his lance, unbroken, dismounted to continue on foot. Sir Ablar was not sprightly. His squire ran loose, loosened his helm, called for help, and the two men serving lifted the day's knight by the arms to help him back to the pavilion. Elsewhere on the field, six knights remained horses, were riding their third course. More lances shattered. At this time, Lord Leo Tyrell aimed his point so expertly he ripped the Grey Lion's helm clean off his head. Barefaced, Lord of Casterly Rock raised his hand in salute, dismounted, yielding the match. By then, Sir Humphrey had beaten Lord Tully into surrender, showing himself as skilled with a sword as he was with a lance. Tybalt Lannister and Andro Ashford rode against each other thrice more times before Andro lost the shield, a seat, and match all at once. The younger Ashford lasted even longer, breaking no less than 9 lances against Sir Lionel Baratheon, the Laughing Storm. Champion and Challenger both lost their saddles on the 10th, only to rise to fight on, sword against mace. Finally, the battered Sir Robert Ashford admitted defeat, but on the viewing stand his father looked anything but dejected. Both Lord Ashford's son had been unessured from the ranks of the champions, it was true, but they had acquitted themselves nobly against 2 of the finest knights in the 7 kingdoms. I must do even better, though, Dunk thought as he watched victor and vanquished embrace, and all walked together from the field. It is not enough for me to fight well and loose. I must at least win the first challenge, or I lose all. Sirs Tybalt Lannister and the Laughing Storm would now take their places amongst the champions, replacing the men they had defeated. Already the orange pavilions were coming down. A few feet away, the young prince sat at his ease and raised camp chair before his great black tent. His helm was off. He had dark hair like his father, but a bright streak ran through it. A serving man brought him a silver goblet, and he took a sip. Water if he is wise, Dunk thought. Wine if he's not. He found himself wondering if Valar had indeed inherited a measure of his father's prowess, or whether it had been that he had only drawn the weakest opponent. A fanfare of trumpets announced the names of 3 challengers had entered the lists. The heralds shouted their names. Sir Pierce of House Caron, Lord of the Marches. He had a silver harp emblazoned on his shield, and his surcoat patterned with nightingales. Sir Joseph of House Mallister from Seagard. Sir Joseph sported a winged helmet on his shield, a silver eagle across an indigo sky. Sir Gawain of House Swan, Lord of the Stonehelm, on the Cape of Wrath. A pair of swans, one black, one white, fought furiously on his arms. Lord Gawain's armor, cloak, and horse partings were a riot of black and white down to the stripes on his scabbard and lance. Lord Caron, harper and singer, a knight of renown, touched the point of his lance to Lord Tyrell's nose. Sir Joseph thumped on Sir Humphrey Harding's diamonds, and the black and white knight, Lord Gawain, challenged the prince on the white guardsman. Dunk rubbed his chin. Lord Gawain was even older than the old man, and the old man was dead. Egg, who's the least dangerous of the three challengers? He asked with the boy on his shoulders. Lord Gawain, Valar's foe, Prince Valar. He corrected. A squire must keep a courteous tongue. The three challengers took their places as the three champions mounted up. Men were making wagers all around them and calling out encouragement to their choices, but Dunk had only eyes on the prince. On the first pass, he struck Lord Gawain's shield at a glancing blow, the blunted point of the lance sliding across just as it had Sir Abelard Hightower's, only this time it deflected the other way into empty air. Lord Gawain broke his own lance clean against the prince's chest, and Valar seemed about to fall for an instant before he recovered in his seat. The second time through the lists, Valar swung his lance to the left, aiming for the foe's breasts, but struck the shoulder instead. Even so, the blow was enough to make the older knight lose his lance. One arm flailed for balance, and Lord Gawain fell. The young prince swung from his saddle, drew his sword, but the man had fallen, waved him off, and raised his visor. I yield, your grace. Well fought. The lords in the viewing stand echoed him, shouting, Well fought! Well fought! As Valar knelt and helped the gray-haired lord up to his feet. But it was not either, Egg complained. Be quiet or you go back to the camp. Farther away, Sir Joseph Mallister was being carried off the field unconscious, while the Harp Lord and Rose Lord were going at each other lustily with blunted long axes, to the delight of the roaring crowd. Dunk was so intent on Valar Targaryen that he scarcely saw them. He's a fair knight, but no more than that. He found himself thinking, I would have a good chance against him. If the gods were good, I might even unhorse him. And once afoot, my weight and strength would tell. Get him! Egg shouted merrily, shifting his seat on Dunk's shoulders, excited. Get him! Get him! Yes, he's right there! He's right there! It seemed to be Lord Caron he was cheering on. The harper was playing a different sort of music now, driving Lord Leo back and back as steel sang and rang. The crowd seemed almost equally divided between them, so cheers and curses mingled freely in the morning air. Chips of wood and paint were flying from Lord Leo's shield as Lord Pierce's axe knocked the petals off of his golden rose one by one until the shield finally shattered and split. But as it did, the axe had hung up in the air for the wood for a second, and Leo's own axe crashed down on the haft of the opponent's weapon, breaking it not a foot from his hand. He cast aside his broken shield, and suddenly he was the one on the attack. Within a moment, the Harper Knight was the one on the knee, singing surrender. For the rest of the morning and well into the afternoon, it was more of the same. As challengers took into the field in twos and threes, sometimes fives together, trumpets blew, heralds called out names, war horses charged, the crowd cheered, lances snapped like twigs, swords rang on helms and mails. It was, the small folks and high lords alike agreed, a splendid day of jousting. Sir Humphrey Harding and Sir Humphrey Beesbury, a young knight in yellow and black stripes with 3 beehives painted on his shield, splintered no less than a dozen lances apiece in an epic struggle the small folk began to call the Battle of Sir Humphrey. Sir Tybalt Lannister was unhorsed by John Penrose and broke his sword in the fall, but fought back with shield alone to win the bout and remain champion. One-eyed Sir Robin Risling, a grizzled old knight with a salt and pepper beard, lost his helm to Lord Leo's lance in their first course, yet refused to yield. 3 more times they rode at each other, wind whipping Sir Robin's hair, while shards of broken lance flew around his bare face like wooden knives, which Dunk thought was all the more wondrous when Egg told him that Sir Robin had lost his eye to a splinter from a broken lance not 5 years earlier. Lord Tyrell was too chivalrous to aim when Sir Robin's unprotected head, but even so, Risling's stubborn courage, or was it folly, left Dunk astounded. Finally, the Lord of Highgarden struck Sir Robin's breastplate in a solid thump right over the heart, sent him cartwheeling to the earth. Sir Lionel Baratheon also fought several notable matches. Against lesser foes, he would often break into booming laughter at the moment they touched shield, and laugh all the way he was mounted, charging and knocking them from their stirrups. If his challengers wore any sort of crest on their helm, Sir Lionel would strike it off and fling it into the crowd. The crests were ornate things made of carved wood or shaped leather, sometimes gilded, enameled, or even wrought pured silver. So the men he beat did not appreciate this habit, though it made him a favorite of the commoners. Before long, only crestless men were choosing him. As loud and often as Sir Lionel laughed down each challenger, though, Dunk thought the day's honors should go to Sir Humphrey Harding, who humbled 14 knights, each one of them formidable. Meanwhile, the young prince sat outside his black pavilion, drinking from his silver goblet, rising from time to mount his horse and vanquish yet another undistinguished foe. He won 9 victories, but it seemed to Dunk that everyone was hollow. He is beating old men and unjumped squires, a few lords of high birth and low skill. The truly dangerous men are riding past his shield as if they do not see it. Late in the day, a brazen fanfare announced the entry of a new challenger to the list. He wore a red charger whose black bardings were slashed with glimpses of yellow crimson ornate underneath. As he approached the viewing stand to make his salute, Dunk saw the face beneath the visor and recognized the prince he'd met in Lord Ashford's stables. Egg seemed to tighten his legs around his neck. "Stop that!" Dunk snapped, yanking them apart. "Do you mean to choke me?" "Prince Arian Bright Flame," the herald called, "of the keep of King's Landing, son of Prince Maekar, Prince of Summerhall, of House Targaryen, grandson to Daron the Good, second of his name, King of the Andals, the Ronar, the first of the men, and Lord of the 7 Kingdoms." Arian bore a 3-headed dragon on his shield, but it was rendered in colors much more vivid than Valor's. The one on his head was orange, one yellow, one red, and the flames they breathed had sheen gold leaf. His surcoat was a swirl of smoke, fire woven together, his blackened helm surmounted by the crest of red enamel flames. After a pause to dip his lance, Prince Baelor, a pause so brief that was almost perfunctory, he galloped to the north end of the field, past Leo pavilions and the Laughing Storms, slowing when he approached Prince Valor's tent. The young prince rose stiffly beside his shield, and for a moment, Dunk was certain that Arian meant to strike it. But then he laughed and trotted past and banged it against Sir Humphrey Harding's diamonds. Come out, little knight," he sang loud and clear. "It's time you face the dragon." Sir Humphrey inclined his head stiffly as his foe's gestuire was brought out, and then ignored him while they mounted, fastened his helm, took up shield and lance. The spectators grew quiet as the 2 knights took their place. Dunk heard the clang of Prince Arian dropping visor. The horns blew. Sir Humphrey broke slowly, building speed, but his foe raked charger, both spurs coming in. Egg's legs tightened again. "Kill him!" he shouted suddenly. "Kill him! He's right there! Kill him! Kill him! Kill him!" Dunk was not certain which of the knights he was shouting to. Prince Arian's lance, dipped in gold, painted stripes of red, orange, yellow, swung across the barrier. Too low, Dunk thought for a moment. He'll miss the rider and strike Sir Humphrey's horse. He needs to bring it up. Then, with a dawning horror and a moment of suspect that Arian intended no such thing, he could not mean to. At the last possible instant, Sir Humphrey's stallion reared away from the oncoming point. Eyes rolled in terror, but it was too late. Arian's lance took the animal just above the armor that protected its breastbone. Blood exploded out the back of its neck in a gout of bright blood. Screaming, the horse crashed sideways, knocking the wooden barrier to pieces as it fell. Sir Humphrey tried to leap, but a foot caught in the stirrup, and they heard the shriek as his leg was crushed between the splintered fence and the horse. All of Ashford Meadow was shouting. Men ran onto the field to extricate Sir Humphrey, but the stallion, dying in agony, kicked at them as they approached. Arian raced blithely around the carnage to the end of the lists, wheeled his horse, came galloping back. He was shouting too, though Dunk could not make out the words over the almost human screams of the dying horse. Vaulting from the saddle, Arian drew his sword and advanced on fallen foe. His squires and one of Sir Humphrey's had to pull him back. Egg squirmed. "Let me down! The poor horse! Let me down!"
Dunk felt sick himself. What would I do if thunder befell such a fate? A man-at-arms with the poleaxe dispatched Humphrey's stallion, ending the hideous shrieks. Dunk turned, forced his way through the press. When he came to open ground, he lifted Egg off his shoulders. The boy's hood had fallen and his eyes were red. A terrible sight, aye. But a squire needs be strong. You'll see worse haps at other tourneys, I fear. It was no mishap, Egg said, mouth trembling. Arian meant to do it. You saw. Dunk frowned. It had looked that way to him as well, but it was hard to accept that any knight could be so unchivalrous, least of all one who was the blood of dragon. I saw a knight green as summer grass lose control of his lance, he said stubbornly, and I'll hear no more of it. The jousting's done for the day, I think. Come on, lad. He was right about the end of the day's contests. By the time the chaos set, the sun was low in the west. Lord Ashford had been called to a halt. As the shadows of the evenings crept across the meadows, 100 torches were lit along the merchant's row. Dunk bought a horn of ale for himself and a half-horn for the boy to cheer him. He wandered for a time, listening to the sprightly air on pipes and drums and watching a puppet show about Nymeria, the warrior queen, with 10,000 ships. The puppeteers only had 2 ships, but managed a rousing sea battle all the same. Dunk wanted to ask the girl Tanzel if she'd finished painting the shield, but he could see that she was busy. I'll wait till she's done for the night. Perhaps she'll have a thirst then. Sir Duncan, a voice called behind. And then again, Sir Duncan! Suddenly Dunk remembered that was him. I saw you amongst the small folk today with a boy on your shoulders. It was Raymond Fossaway. He came up smiling. Indeed, the 2 of you were hard to miss. The boy is my squire. Egg, this is Raymond Fossaway. Dunk had to pull the boy forward, and even then Egg lowered his head and stared at the boy's boots as he mumbled his greeting. Well met, lad. Sir Duncan, why not watch from the viewing gallery? All knights are welcome there. Dunk was at ease amongst the small folks and servants. The idea of claiming a place amongst the lords, ladies, and landed knights made him uncomfortable. I would not have wanted any closer viewing of that last hilt. Raymond grimaced. Nor I. Lord Ashford declared Sir Humphrey will the victor and awarded him Prince Arian's courser. Even so, though, he'll not be able to continue. His leg was broken in 2 places. Prince Baelor sent his own maester to attend him. Will there be another champion in Sir Humphrey's place? Lord Ashford has a mind to grant the place to Lord Karen, or perhaps the other Sir Humphrey, the one who gave Harding such a splendid match, but Prince Baelor told him that it would not be seemly to remove Sir Humphrey's shield and pavilion under circumstances. I believe they're going to continue with 4 champions instead of 5. 4 champions. Leo Tyrell, Lionel Baratheon, Tybolt Lannister, and Prince Valar. He'd seen enough of the day to know how little a stance he would choose against the 3, which left... A hedge knight cannot challenge a prince. Valar is second in line to the Iron Throne. He's Baelor Breakspear's son, and his blood is the blood of the dragon, Aegon the Conqueror, and the young dragon, and Prince Aemon the Dragon Knight. And I am some boy, an old man found behind a pot shop in Flea Bottom. His head hurt just thinking about it. Who does your cousin mean to challenge? He asked Sir Raymond. Sir Tybolt. All things being equal, they are well matched. My cousin keeps a sharp watch on every tilt, though. Should any man be wounded on the morrow, or show any signs of exhaustion or weakness, Zephin will quick to knock on his shield. You may count on it. No one's ever accused him of an excess of chivalry. He laughed, as if to take the sting from his wounds. Sir Duncan, will you join me for a cup of wine? I have matters to attend, Dunk said, uncomfortable with the notion of accepting hospitality he could not return. I could wait here and bring your shield when the puppet show is over. They're going to do Simeon Star Eyes later, and make the dragon fight again as well. There you go, your matter is attended to, and the wine awaits, Raymond said. It's an Arbor vintage, too. How can you refuse me? Bereft of excuses, Dunk had no choice but to follow, leaving Egg at the puppet show. The apple of House Fossway flew above the gold-colored pavilion where Raymond attended his cousin. Behind it, 2 servants were basting a goat with honey and herbs over a small cook fire.
There's food as well if you're hungry.
Raymond said negligently as he held the flap for Dunk. A brazier of coals lit the interior, and the air was pleasantly warm. Raymond filled 2 cups with wine. They say Arian is at a rage with Lord Ashford for awarding his charger to Sir Humphrey. But I'll wager it was his uncle who counselled it. Prince Baelor is an honourable man. As the bright prince is not? Don't look so anxious, Sir Duncan. There are none but here. There are none here but us. It's no secret that Arian's a bad piece of work. Thanks to gods that he is well down in the order of succession. You don't mean that he truly meant to kill the horse? Is there any doubt of it? If Prince Maekar had been here, it would have gone differently, I promise you. Arian is all smiles and chivalry so long as his father's watching, if the tales be true. But when he's not... I saw that Prince Maekar's chair was empty. He's left Ashford to search for his sons, along with Roland Craighall of the Kingsguard. There's a wild tale of a robber knight going about, but I'll wager the prince is just off drunk again. The wine was fruity and fine, as good a cup as he had ever tasted. He rolled it in his mouth, swallowed. Which prince is this now? Maekar's heir, Darren, named after the king. They call him Darren the Drunken, though. Not his father's hearing. The youngest boy as well. They left him at Summerhall. Together they never reached Ashford. Raymond drained his cup, set it aside. Poor Maekar. The king's son? King's 4th son. Not quite as bold as Prince Baelor, not as clever as Ares, nor as gentle as Prince Rhaegal, and now he must suffer seeing his sons overshadowed by his brothers. Darren is a sot. Aaron is vain and cruel, and the 3rd son was so unpromising they gave him to the Citadel to make a maester of him. And the youngest, Sir Duncan! Sir Duncan! Egg burst in, his hood fallen back, the light of the brazier. You have to run! He's hurting her! Dunk lurched to his feet, confused. Hurting who? Arian! He's hurting her! The puppet girl! Hurry! Whirling, he darted back out into the night. Dunk made to follow, but Raymond caught his arm. Sir Duncan! Arian, he said. A prince of blood, be careful. It was good counsel, he knew. The old man would have said the same thing, but he could not listen. He wrenched free of Raymond's hand and shouldered his way out of the pavilion. He could hear shouting off in the direction of Merchant's Row. Egg was almost in sight after he ran after him. His legs long and the boy short, but he quickly closed the distance. A wall of watchers had gathered around the puppeteers. Dunk shouldered through them, ignoring their curses. A man-at-arms in the royal livery stepped up to block him. Dunk put his hands on his chest, shoved him, sending the man flailing backwards on his ass in the dirt. The puppeteer's stall had been knocked on its side. The fat Dornish woman was weeping on the ground. One man-at-arms, dangling the puppets of Florian and Yonkill from another hand, set them afire with a torch. 3 more men were opening chests, spilling more puppets on the grounds, and stomping on them. The dragon puppet was scattered all about. A broken wing here, its head there, its tail in 3 pieces, and in the midst of it stood Prince Arian, resplendent in a red velvet doublet with long, dagged sleeves, twisting Tansel's arms in both hands. She was on her knees, pleading him, while Arian ignored her. He forcefully opened her hand, seized one of the fingers, and stood there, not quite believing what he saw. Then he heard a crack, and Tansel screamed. One of Arian's men tried to grab him and went flying. 3 long strides, and Dunk grabbed the prince's shoulders, wrenched him around hard. His sword and dagger were forgotten, along with everything the old man had ever taught him. He knocked Arian's off his feet, and his the toe of his boot slammed into the prince's belly. When Arian went for his knife, Dunk stepped on his wrist and kicked him again right in the mouth. He might have kicked him to death right then and there, but the princeling's men swarmed over him. He had a man on each arm, pounding another across the back. No sooner he had wrestled free, there were 2 more on him. Finally, they shoved him down, pinned his arms and legs. Arian on his feet again. The prince's mouth was bloody. He pushed his finger inside.
You've loosened one of my teeth,
he complained.
So we'll start by breaking out all of yours.
He pushed his hair from his eyes.
You look familiar. You took me for a stable boy.
Arian smiled. I recall. And you refused to take my horse.
Why did you throw your life away for this whore?
Tanzel was curled up on the ground, cradling her maimed hand. He gave her a shove with the toe of her boot.
She's scarcely worth it. A traitor. The dragon ought never lose.
He's mad, thought Dunk, but he's still a prince's son, and he means to kill me. He might have prayed then, if he knew a prayer, but all the way through. But there was hardly time to be afraid.
No more to say, said Arian. You bore me.
He poked at his bloody mouth again. Get a hammer. Let's break his teeth out, wait. And let's cut him open and show him the colors of his entrails. No! A boy's voice said. Don't hurt him! Gods be good, the boy, the brave, foolish boy, Dunk thought. He fought against the arms restraining him, but it was no good. Hold your tongue, you stupid boy. Run away. They'll hurt you. No, they won't. Egg moved closer. If they do, they'll answer to my father, and my uncle as well. Let go of him, I said. Wait, Yorkle, you know me. Do as I say. The hands holding him, his left arm, were gone, and then the others. Dunk didn't understand what was happening. The men-at-arms backing away. One knelt. Then the crowd parted for Raymond Fosway. He had donned his mail, his helm, his hand on his sword, his cousin Sir Stephen behind him, already bared his blade, with half a dozen men-at-arms and the red apple badge sewn on their breast. Prince Arian paid them no mind. Impudent little wretch, he said to Egg, spitting a mouthful of blood on the boy's feet.
What happened to your hair?
Cut it off, brother.
I didn't want to look like you.
The second day of the tourney was overcast, with a gusty wind blowing from the west. The crowd should be less on a day like this, Dunk thought. It would have been easier for them to find a spot near the fence to see the jousting up close. Egg might have sat on the rail while I stood behind him. Instead, Egg would have a seat in the viewing box, dressed in silks and furs, while Dunk's view would be limited to the four walls of a tower cell where Lord Ashford's men had confined him. The chamber had a window, but it faced the wrong direction, so Dunk cramped himself to the window seat as the sun came up, stared gloomily across the town, the field, and the forest. They had taken his hempen sword belt, his sword and his dagger. They had taken his silver as well. He had hoped Egg or Raymond would remember Chestnut and Thunder. Egg, he muttered under his low breath, his squire a poor lad plucked from the streets of King's Landing. Had a knight ever been made such a fool? Dunk the lunk, thick as a castle wall, slow as an o-rock. He had not been permitted to speak to Egg since Lord Ashford's soldiers had scooped them all up at the puppet show. Nor Raymond, nor Tanzel, nor anyone, nor even Lord Ashford himself. He wondered if he would ever see any of them again. For all he knew, they meant to keep him in this small room until he died. What did I think would happen? He asked himself bitterly. I knocked down a prince's son and kicked him in the face. Beneath these skies, the flowing finery of the high-born lords and great champions would not seem so quite blended as it were the day before. The sun, walled behind the clouds, would not brush their steel helms with brilliance, nor make their gold or silver chasings glitter and flash. But even so, Dunk wished he was in the crowd to watch the jousting. It would have been a good day for hedge knights, for men in plain mail on unbarded horses. He could hear them at least. The horns of the heralded carried well, and from time to time rose a roar from the crowd, so that someone told him it had risen or fallen, or done something especially bold. He heard faint hoofbeats too, and once in a great clash of swords or the snap of a lance, Dunce winced whenever he heard. It reminded him of the snap of Tanzel's finger when Arion had broke it. There were other sounds too. Closer at hand, footfalls in the hall, outside his door, the stamp of hoofs in the yard below, the shouts from the castle walls. Sometimes they drowned out the tourney. Dunk was just as well. A hedge knight is supposed to be the truest kind of knight, Dunk, the old man had told him a long time ago. Other knights serve lords who keep them, or from whom they hold their lands, but we serve who we will, for the causes we believe in. Every knight swears to protect the weak and innocent, but we keep the vow best, I think. Queer how strong that memory seemed. Dunk had forgotten those words, and perhaps the old man had as well, toward the end. The morning turned afternoon, and distant sounds of the tourney began to dwell and die. Dusk began to seep into the cell, but Dunk sat still in the window seat, looking on at gathering, trying to ignore the feelings of his empty belly. And then he heard the footsteps and jangling of iron keys. He uncoiled and rose to his feet as the door opened. 2 guards pushed in, bearing an oil lamp. A serving man followed by a tray of food behind. Came Egg. "Leave the lamp and the food and go," the boy told them. They did as he commanded, though Dunk noticed they left the heavy wooden door ajar. The smell of food made him realize how ravenous he was. There was hot bread and honey and a bowl of peas, porridge, a skewer of roast onions, and well-charred meat. He sat by the tray, pulled the bread apart with his hands, stuffed some in his mouth. "There's no knife," he observed. "Did they think I'd stab you, boy?" They didn't tell me what they thought. Egg wore a close-fitting black wool doublet tucked into the waist, long sleeves, and red satin, with the 3-headed dragon of House Targaryen sewn across his chest. "My uncle says I must humbly beg your forgiveness for deceiving you." "Your uncle? That would be Prince Baelor." The boy looked miserable. "I never meant to lie." "But you did. About everything, starting with your name." "I never heard of no Prince Egg." "It's short for Aegon. My brother Aemon named me Egg. He's off at the Citadel now, learning to be a maester. And Darren sometimes calls me Egg, and so do my sisters." Dunk lifted the skewer and bit into the chunk of meat. Goat, flavored with some lordly spice he'd probably never taste again. Grease ran down his chin. "Aegon," he repeated. Of course it would be Aegon. Like Aegon the dragon? How many Aegons have been king? 4, said the boy. 4 Aegons. Dunk chewed, swallowed, tore some more bread. "Why'd you do it? Is it just some jape to make a fool of a stupid hedge knight?" "No!" The boy's eyes filled with tears, but he stood there manfully. "I was supposed to squire for Sir Darren. He's my oldest brother. I learned everything I had learned to be a good squire, but Darren's not a very good knight. He didn't want to ride in the tourney, so after we left Summerhall, he stole away from our escort, only instead of doubling back, he went straight on toward Ashford, thinking they'd never look for us that way. It was him who shaved my head. He knew my father would send men hunting for us. Darren has common hair, sort of pale brown, nothing special, but mine's like Aryon's and my father's. Blood of the dragon," Dunk said. "Silver, gold, and purple eyes, everyone knows that. Thick as a castle wall, Dunk." "Yeah, so Darren shaved it off. He only meant for us to hide until the tourney was over, only you took me for a stable boy," and he lowered his eyes. "I didn't care if Darren fought or not, but I wanted to be someone's squire." "I'm sorry, sir. I truly am." Dunk looked at him thoughtfully. He knew what it was like to want something so badly you'd tell a monstrous lie just to get near it. "I thought you were like me." "Might be you are, only not the way I thought." "We're both from King's Landing still," the boy said hopefully. Dunk had a laugh. "Yes, you're from the top of Aegon's Hill and me at the bottom." "That's not so far, sir." Dunk took a bite from an onion. "Do I need to call you my lord now? Or your grace?" "At court," the boy admitted. "But other times, you can keep on calling me Egg if you like, sir." "And what will they do with me, Egg?" "My uncle wants to see you, after you're done eating." Dunk shoved the platter aside instead. I'm done now then. I've already kicked one prince in the mouth. I don't mean to keep another waiting. Lord Ashford had turned his own chambers over to Prince Baelor for the duration of the stay. So it was to the Lord Solar that Aegon, he would have to get used to that, conducted him. Baelor reading by the light of a beeswax candle. Dunk knelt before him. Rise, said the prince. Do you care for some wine? As you please, your grace. Pour Duncan a cup of the sweet Dornish red Aegon, the prince commanded, and try not to spill it on him. He's suffered enough of your ill already. The boy won't spill, your grace, said Dunk. He's a good boy. A good squire. And he meant me no harm, I know. One not need intend harm to do it. Aegon should have come to me when he saw what his brother was doing to these puppeteers. Instead, he ran to you. That was no kindness. What you did, sir. Well, I might have done the same in your place, but I am a prince of the realm, not a hedge knight. It is never wise to strike a king's grandson in anger, no matter the cause. Dunk nodded grimly. Egg offered him a silver goblet brimming with wine. He accepted it and took a long swallow. I hate Arian, Egg said with vehemence. And I had to run for Sir Duncan, uncle. The castle was too far. Arian is your brother, the prince said firmly, and the Septons say we must love our brothers. Aegon, leave us now. I must speak to Sir Duncan privately. The boy put down the flagon of wine and bowed stiffly. As you will, your grace. He went on the door of the solar and left and closed it softly. Baelor Breakspear studied Dunk's eyes for a moment. Sir Duncan, let me ask you this. How good of a knight are you? How skilled at arms? Dunk did not know what to say. Sir Arlen taught me sword and shield, and I know how to ring it rings and quintains. Baelor Breakspear seemed troubled by that answer. My brother Maekar returned from the castle a few hours ago. He found his heir drunk in an inn a day's ride south. Maekar will never admit as such, but I believe it was his secret hope that his sons might outshine mine in the tourney. Instead, they've both shamed him. But what is he to do? They are the blood of his blood. Maekar is angry, and you need to have a target for his wrath. He's chosen you. Me? Dunk said miserably. Arian's already filled his father's ear, and Darren has not helped you either. To excuse his own cowardice, he told my brother that a huge robber knight, Chance, met on the road, made off with Aegon. I fear you have been cast as this robber knight, sir. In Darren's tale, he spent all these days pursuing you hither and yon to win back his brother. But Egg will tell him the truth. Aegon, I mean. Egg will tell him, I have no doubt, said Prince Baelor. But the boy has been known to lie too, as you have good reason to recall. Which son my brother believes? As for the matter of the puppeteers, by the time Arian's done twisting the tale, it will be high treason. The dragon is a sigil of the royal house. To portray one being slain, sawdust blood spilling from its nest. Well, it was doubtless innocent, but it was far from wise. Arian calls it a veiled attack on House Targaryen, an incitement to revolt. Maekar will likely agree. My brother has a prickly nature, and he's placed all his hopes on Arian since Prince Darren has been such a disappointment to him. The brother took a sip of wine and set the goblet aside. Whatever my brother believes to be one truth is beyond dispute. You laid hands upon the blood of the dragon. For that, you will be tried, judged, and punished. Punished? Dunk did not like the sound of that. Arian would like your head, with or without your teeth. He will not have it, I promise you, but you cannot deny him a trial. As my royal father is hundreds of leagues away, my brother and I will sit judgment of you, along with Lord Ashford, whose domains these are, and Lord Tyrell Highgarden, his liege lord. The last time a man was found guilty of striking royal blood, it was decreed that he should lose the offending hand. My hand? And your foot. You kicked him, too, did you not? Dunk could not speak. To be sure, I will urge my fellow judges to be merciful. I am the king's hand, heir to the throne. My word carries some weight, but so does my brother's. The risk is there. Said Dunk. You're great. They meant no treason. It was only a wooden dragon. It was never meant to be a royal prince. He wanted to say words, but his words deserted him all at once. He'd never been any good with words. You have another choice. Prince Baelor said quietly. Whether you better choose one or a worse one, I cannot say. But I remind you that any knight accused of a crime has the right to demand a trial by combat. So I ask you, once again, Sir Duncan the Tall, how good a knight are you, truly? A trial of the 7, said Prince Arian, smiling. That is my right, I do believe. Prince Baelor drummed his fingers on the table, frowning. To his left, Lord Ashford nodded slowly. Why? Prince Maekar demanded, leaning forward to his son. Are you afraid to face this hedge knight alone and let the gods decide the truth of your accusations? Afraid? Arian said. Of this? Don't be absurd, father. My thought is for my beloved brother. Darian has been wronged by this Sir Duncan as well, and has the first claim to his blood. A trial of the 7 allows us both to face him. Do me no favors, brother, muttered Darin Targaryen. The eldest son of Prince Maekar looked even worse than when Duncan encountered him at the inn. He seemed to be sober this time, and his red and black doublet unstained by wine, but his eyes bloodshot, and a fine sheen of sweat covered his brow. I am content to cheer you on as you slay the rogue. You were too kind, sweet brother, Prince Arian said, all smiles, but it would be selfish of me to deny you the right to prove your words at the hazard of your body. I must insist upon a trial of the 7. Dunk was lost. You're great, my lords. I do not understand. What is a trial of the 7? Baelor shifted uncomfortably in his seat. It's another form of trial by combat. Ancient, seldom invoked. It came across the narrow sea with the Andals and their 7 gods. In any trial by combat, the accuser and the accused are asking the gods to decide the issue between them. The Andals believed that the 7 champions fought on each side. The gods, being thus honored, would be more likely to take a hand and see that a just result was achieved. Or mayhaps they just had a taste for swordplay. Lord Leo Tyrell's cynical smile. Regardless, Sir Arian was in his rights. A trial of the 7 it must be. I must fight 7 men? Dunk asked hopelessly. Not alone, sir, said Maekar impatiently. Don't play the fool, it will not serve you. It must be 7 against 7. You need to find 6 other knights to fight beside you. 6 knights, Dunk thought. They might as well have told him to find 6,000. He had no brothers, no cousins, no comrades who stood beside him in battle. Why would 6 strangers risk their own lives to defend a hedge knight against 2 royal princelings? Your graces, my lords, what if no one takes my part? Prince Maekar Targaryen looked at him coldly. If a cause is just, good men will fight for it. If you can find no champion, sir, it will be because you are guilty. Could anything be more plain? Duncan had never felt so alone as when he walked out the gates of Ashford Castle and heard the portcullis rattle down behind him. A soft light rain falling, light dew on his skin, yet he shivered at the touch of it. Across the river, colored rings hallowed the scent. Scant pavilions where fires still burned. The night was half gone, he guessed. Dawn would be within a few hours. And with dawn comes death. They gave him back his sword and his silver, and yet as he wandered across the ford, his thoughts were bleak. He wondered if they expected him to saddle a horse and flee. He could, if he wished. That would be the end of his knighthood, to be sure. He would be no more, and hence be an outlaw. Until the day some lord took him in and struck off his head. Better to die a knight than live like that, he told himself stubbornly. Wet to the knee, he trudged past the empty lists. Most of the pavilions were dark, their owners long asleep, but here the few candles still burned. Dunk heard soft moans and cries of pleasure coming from within one tent. It made him wonder whether he could die without ever having known a maid. Then he heard a sort of snap of horse, a snort somehow. He knew for thunders. He turned his step and ran outside, and there he was, tied up with Chestnut outside a round pavilion lit from within by a vague golden glow. On its center pole, a banner hung sodden, but Dunk could still make out the dark curve apple of Fossaway. It looked like hope. A trial by combat, Raymond said. Gods be good, Duncan. That can mean lances of war, morning stars, battle axes, swords that won't be blunted. You understand this, right? Raymond the Reluctant, mocked his cousin, Sir Stephen. An apple made of golden garnets fastened his cloak of yellow wool. You need fear not, cousin. This is a knightly battle. You are at no risk. You are no knight. Your skin is not at risk. Sir Duncan will have one foss away at least, though a ripe one. I saw what Arion did to those puppeteers. I am for you. And I, snapped Raymond, angrily. I mean, Duncan, his cousin cut him off. Who else fights with us, Sir Duncan? Dunk spread his hands hopelessly. I know no one else, except for Manfred Dundarian. He wouldn't even vouch that I was a knight, but he'll never risk his life for me. Sir Stephen seemed perturbed. Then we need 5 more good men. Luckily, I have more than 5 friends. Leo Longthorn, the Laughing Storm, Lord Caron, the Lannisters, Otho Bracken, I. Even the Blackwoods as well, though you'll never get a Blackwood and a Bracken on the same side of a melee. I shall go to speak with some of them. They won't be happy being woken, his cousin objected. Excellent, declared Sir Stephen. If they're angry, they'll fight all the more fiercely. You may rely on me, Sir Duncan. Cousin, if I do not return before dawn, bring my armor and see that the wrath is saddled and barded for me. I shall meet you both in the Challenger's paddock. Ha ha ha, he laughed. The day will be long remembered, I think. When he strode from the tent, he looked almost happy. Not so, Raymond. 5 nights, he said glumly to his cousin. Duncan, I am loath to dash your hopes, but if your cousin can bring the men he speaks of, Leo Longthorn, Brood of Bracken, Laughing Storm, Raymond stood. He knows all of them, I have no doubt, but I would be less certain that any of them know him. Stephen sees this as a chance for glory, but it means your life. You should find your own men. I'll help. Better you have too many champions than too few. A noise outside the tent made Raymond turn his head. Who goes there? He demanded as the boy tucked through the flap, followed by a thin man in a rain-sodden cloak. Egg. Dunk got to his feet. Where are you going? I'm your squire, the boy said. You'll need to have someone to arm you. Does your father know you've left the castle? Gods be good, I hope not. Darin Targaryen undid the clasp of his cloak and let it slide from his thin shoulders. And you! Are you mad coming here? Dunk pulled the knife from his sheath. I ought to shove this through your belly. Probably, Prince Darin admitted, though I'd sooner you poured me a cup of wine. Look at my hands. He held one out and let them all see how it shook. Dunk stepped toward him, glowering. I don't care about your hands. You lied to me. I had to say something when my father demanded to know where my little brother had gotten to. He seated himself, ignoring Dunk and his knife. If truth be told, I hadn't realized Egg was gone. He wasn't at the bottom of my cup of wine, and I hadn't really looked anywhere else, so... He sighed. Sir, my father's going to join the 7 and the accusers, Egg broke in. I begged him not to, but he won't listen. He said it's the only way to redeem Arion's honor and Daren's. Not that I ever asked to have my honor redeemed, Prince Darin said sourly. Whoever has it can keep it as far as I'm concerned. Still, here we are. For what it's worth, Sir Duncan will have little words to fear from me. The only thing I like less than horses are swords, heavy things and beastly sharp. I'll do my best to look gallant from the first charge, but after that, well, if you do me a nice blow to the side of the helm, make it ring, but not too loud, if you take my meaning. My brothers have measure, but when it comes to fighting and dancing and thinking and reading books, but none of them is half equal to at lying to my insensible in the mud. Dunk could only stare at him and wonder whether the princeling was trying to play him for a fool. Why did you come? To warn you of what you face. My father's commanded the Kingsguard to fight with him. The Kingsguard? Well, 3 of them are here. Thank the gods Uncle Baelor left the other fort at King's Landing with our royal grandfather. Egg supplied the names. Sir Roland Crakehall, Sir Donald of Duskendale, Sir William Wilde. They have small choice in the matter, said Darin. They're sworn to protect the lives of the king and the royal family, and my brother and I are the blood of the dragon. Gods help us. Darren counted on his fingers. That makes 6. Who will the 7th be? Aaron will find someone. If need be, he will pay a champion. He lacks no gold. Who do you have? Raymond's cousin, Sir Stephen. Only one? Darren wouldn't. Sir Stephen has gone to find some friends. I can bring people, said Egg. Knights, I can. Egg, I will be fighting your brothers. You won't hurt Darren, though, the boy said. He told you he'd fall down, and Arian, I remember when he was little, he used to come into my bedchamber at night and put his knife between my legs. He said he had too many brothers, and one day he'd make me his sister, and then he could marry me. Also, he threw my cat down the well. He says he didn't, but he always lies. Prince Darren gave a weary shrug. Egg tells the truth of it. Arian is quite the monster. He thinks he's the dragon in human form, you know. That's why he's so wroth at the puppet show. A pity he wasn't born a Fossaway, then he'd think himself an apple and we'd all be a deal safer, but there you are. Standing, he scooped up his fallen cloak and shook it back from the rain. I must steal back to the castle, for my father wonders why I am taking so long to sharpen my sword. But before I go, I would like a word in private, Sir Duncan. Will you walk with me? Dunk looked at the princeling suspiciously a moment. As you wish, your grace. He sheathed his dagger. I need to get my shield, too. Egg and I will look for knights, promised Sir Raymond. Prince Darren knotted his cloak around his neck and pulled the hood. Dunk followed him back and out into the soft rain. They walked towards the merchants' wagons. I dreamed of you, said the prince. You said that at the inn. Did I? Well, it's so. My dreams are not like yours, Sir Duncan. Mine are true, and they frighten me. You frighten me. I've dreamed of you and a dead dragon, you see. A great beast, huge, with wings so large they could cover this meadow. It had fallen on top of you, but you were alive, and the dragon was dead. Did I kill it? That I could not say, but you were there, and so was the dragon. We were the masters of the dragons once, we Targaryens. Now they are all gone, but we remain. I don't care to die today. The gods alone know why, but I don't. So do me a kindness, if you will, and make sure it's my brother Arian you slay. I don't care to die either, said Dunk. Well, I shan't kill you, sir. I'll withdraw my accusation as well. But it won't serve you unless Arian withdraws his. He sighed. It may be that I've killed you with my lie. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm doomed to some sort of hell, I know. Likely one without wine. He shuddered and ran off into the rain. The merchants had drawn up their wagons on the western verge of the meadow, beneath the stand of birch and ash. Dunk stood under the trees and looked helplessly at the place where the puppeteers' wagons had gone. He had feared they might be. I would as well, if I were not as thick as a castle wall. He wondered what, if he would do for a shield now. He had the silver to buy one, he supposed, if he could find one for sale. Sir Duncan! A voice rang out. Duncan turned to find it was Steely Pate. Behind him, holding an iron lantern. Under a short leathern cloak, the armor was bare from the waist up. His broad chest, thick arms covered in coarse black hair. If you come down for your shield, she left it with me. He looked up at Dunk. 2 hands, 2 feet. So it's a trial by combat, is it? Trial of 7. How do you know? Well, they might have kissed you and made you a lord, but it didn't seem likely. If it went the other way, you'd be short some parts. Now follow me. His wagon was easy to distinguish by the sword and anvil painted on its side. Dunk and Pate followed inside. The armor hung the lantern on a hook, shrugged out his wet cloak, and pulled a rough-spun tunic over his head. A hinged board dropped down from one wall to make the table sit. Sit, he said, shoving a low stool toward him. Where did they go? Where'd she go? They made for Dorne, the girl's uncle. There's a wise man. Well gone is well forgot. Stay and be seen. They be like the dragon remembers. Besides, he did not think she ought to see you die. Pate went to the far end of the wagon, rummaged about in the shadows for a moment. Your rim was old, cheap steel, brim rusted. I made you some new ones, twice as thick, put some bands across it. It's a lot heavier now, but it will be stronger too. The girl did the paint job. She had painted it better than he could ever have hoped for, even by lantern light. The colors were rich and bright, the tree strong, tall, and noble, the falling star was a bright slash of paint across an oaken sky. And yet, now that Dunk held it in his hands, it seemed all wrong. The star was falling. What sort of sigil was this? Would he fall just as fast? And the sunset heralds night. I should have stayed with the chalice, he said miserably. If it had wings, at least, to fly away. Sir Arlen said the cup was full of faith in the fellowship and the good things to drink, and the shield is painted like death. The elm's alive, Pate said. See how green the leaves are? Summer leaves for shorten. And I've seen shields blazing with skulls and wolves and ravens and even hanged men's and bloody heads. They all served well enough, and this will too. You know the old shield rhyme. Oak and iron, guard me well. Or else I'm dead and doomed to hell, Dunk finished. He had not heard that old rhyme in years. The old man taught it to him a long time ago. How much do you want for the new rim and all? Asked Pate. From you? Pate scratched his beard. A copper.
And we're going to take a very quick
Washroom break.
So if you were going to take a moment or two here, we're just going to take a 2-minute break. We're actually almost done. So for those of you here, we're going to tune back in. We're doing the last segment here. The rain had all but stopped at the first wane light, suffused the eastern sky, but it had done its work. Lord Ashford's men removed the barriers. The turning field was one great morass of gray-brown mud and torn grass. Tendrils of fog were writhing along the ground like steel, pale white snakes as Dunk made his way back towards the lists. Steely Pete walked with him. The viewing stand had already begun to fill, the lords and ladies clutching their cloaks tight about them against the morning chill. Small folk were drifting towards the field as well, and hundreds of them stood along the fences. So many come to see me die, thought Dunk bitterly, but he wronged them. A few steps farther on, a woman called out, "Good fortune to you!" An old man stepped to take his hand and say, "May the gods give you strength, sir." Then a begging brother in tattered robes said a blessing on his sword, and a maid kissed his cheek. "They are here for me." "Why?" he yes Pate. "What am I to them?" "You're a knight who remembered his vows," the smith said.
They found Raymond outside the Challenger's paddock at the south end of the lists, waiting with his cousin's horse and Dunk's. Thunder tossed restlessly beneath the weight of the crinnet, chamfron, and blanket of heavy mail. Pate inspected the horse and pronounced it good work, even though someone else had forged it. Wherever the armor had come from, Dunk was grateful. Then he saw the others. The one-eyed man with the salt and pepper beard, the young knight striped in yellow and black surcoat with the beehives. Robin Risling? Humphrey Beesbury? He had thought in astonishment. And Sir Humphrey Harding as well. Harding mounted on Arian's red charger, now barded in red and white. He went to them. Sirs, I am in your debt. The debt is Arian's, Sir Humphrey Harding said. And we do mean to collect. I heard your leg was broken. You heard the truth, Harding said. I cannot walk, but as long as I can sit a horse, I can fight. Raymond took Dunk's side. I hoped Harding would want another chance at Arian, as he did. As it happens, the other Humphrey is his brother by marriage. Egg is responsible for Sir Robin, whom he knew from the other tourneys. So you were 5. "6," said Dunk, pointing in wonder. A knight was entering his paddock, a squire leading a charger behind him. The Laughing Storm, a head taller than Sir Raymond, almost the height of Dunk. Sir Lionel wore a cloth and gold surcoat, bearing a crowned stag of House Baratheon. He carried his antlered helm under his arm. Sir Dunk reached for his hand. Sir Lionel, I cannot thank you enough for coming, nor Sir Stephen for bringing you. Sir Stephen? Sir Lionel gave him a puzzled look. It was your squire who came to me. The boy Aegon. My own lass tried to chase him off, but he slipped between his legs and turned a flagon of wine over my head. He laughed. There's not been a trial of 7 in more than 100 years. Did you know that? I was not going to miss a chance to fight Kingsguard knights and tweak Prince Maekar's nose in the bargain. 6. Dunk said hopefully to Raymond Fossaway. Sir Lionel joined the others. Your cousin will bring the lass, surely. A roar went up from the crowd. At the north end of the meadow, a column of knights came trotting out of the river mist. The 3 Kingsguard came first, like ghosts in their gleaming white enameled armor, long white cloaks trailing behind them. Even their shields were white, blank and clean, on a field of new-fallen snow. Behind them, Prince Maekar and his sons. Arian was mounted on a dapple gray, orange and red flickering through the slashes of the horse's caparison at each stride. His brother's destrier was smaller bay, armored overlapping black and gold scales. A green silk plume from Darren's helm. It was their father who made the most fearsome appearance, however. Black, curved dragon's teeth ran across the shoulders, along the spiked crest of his helm, down the back, and a huge spiked mace strapped to his saddle, as deadly-looking a weapon as Dunk had ever seen. 6, Raymond exclaimed excitedly. They are only 6. It is true. They are only 6. It was true. Dunk saw 3 black knights and 3 white. They are a man short as well. Was it possible that Arian had not been able to find a 7th man? What would that mean? Would they fight 6 against 6 if neither found a 7th? Egg slipped up beside him. Sir, it's time you donned your armor. Thank you, squire. It would be good. Steely Pate lent the lad a hand. Hauberk and gorget, greaves, gauntlet, coif, codpiece. They turned him into steel, checking each buckle and each clasped thrice. Sir Lionel sat sharpening his sword on a whetstone while the Humphreys talked quietly. Sir Robin prayed, and Sir Raymond Fossaway paced back and forth, wondering where his cousin had gotten to. Dunk was fully armored by the time Sir Stephen finally appeared. Raymond, he called. My mail, if you please. He charged into a padded doublet to wear beneath his steel. Sir Stephen, one of your friends. We need another knight to make our 7. You need 2, I fear, Sir Stephen said. Raymond laced up the back of the hauberk. My lord? 2? Dunk did not understand. Sir Stephen picked up a gauntlet of fine lobstered seal, slid his hand into it, flexing his fingers. I see 5 here. Raymond fastened. Beesbury, Riesling, Harding, Baratheon, and yourself. And you, said Dunk. You're the 6th. I am the 7th, said Sir Stephen, smiling. But for the other side, I fight with Prince Arion and the accusers. Raymond had been about to hand his cousin his helm. He stopped as if stuck. No. Yes, Sir Stephen shrugged. Sir Duncan understands. I am sure I have a duty to my prince. You told him to rely on you. Raymond had gone pale. Did I? He took the helm from his cousin's hands. No doubt I was sincere at the time. Bring me my horse. Get him yourself, said Raymond angrily. If you wish to think I have any part of this, you're as thick as you are vile. Vile, Sir Stephen. Guard your tongue, Raymond. We're both apples from the same tree. And you are my squire. Or have you forgotten your vows? No. Have you forgotten yours? You swore to be a knight. And I shall be more of a knight before this day is done. Lord Fossaway, I like the sounds of that. Smiling, he put his other gauntlet on and turned away and crossed the paddock to his horse. Though the defenders stared at him with contemptuous eyes, no one made a move to stop him. Dunk watched Baratheon lead his destrier across the field. His hands coiled into fists, he felt his throat too raw for speech. No words would move the likes of him anyways. Knight me. Raymond put his hand on Dunk's shoulder and he turned away. I will take my cousin's place, Sir Duncan. Knight me. He went to one knee. Frowning, Dunk moved his hand to the hilt of his longsword, then hesitated. Raymond, I should not. You must. Without me, you are only 5. The lad has the truth of it, said Sir Lionel Baratheon. Do it, Sir Duncan. Any knight can make a knight. Do you have my courage? Do you doubt my courage? Raymond asked. No, said Sir Dunk. Not, but that... He still hesitated. A fanfare of trumpets cut the misty morning air. Egg came running up. Sir, Lord Ashford summons you. The laughing storm gave an impatient shake of his head. Go to him, Sir Duncan. I'll squire Raymond his knighthood. He slid out his sword, sheathed it across, shouldered Dunk aside. Raymond of House Fossaway. He began solemnly, touching the blade to the squire's shoulders. In the name of the warrior, I charge you to be brave. The sword moved from his right shoulder to his left. In the name of the father, I charge you to be just. Back to the right. In the name of the mother, I charge you to defend the young and the innocent. The left. In the name of the maiden, I charge you to protect all women. Dunk left them there, feeling as relieved as he was guilty. We're still one short, he thought as Egg held thunder for him. Where will I find another man? He turned and rode to the viewing stand where Lord Ashford stood waiting. From the north end of the lists, Prince Arion advanced to meet him. Sir Duncan, he said cheerfully. It would seem you only have 5 champions. 6, said Dunk. Sir Lionel is knighting Raymond Fossaway. We will be fighting 6 against your 7. Man had won far worse odds, he knew, but Lord Ashford shook his head. That is not permitted, sir. If you cannot find another knight to take your side, you will be declared guilty of your crimes which you stand accused. Guilty, thought Dunk. Guilty of loosening a tooth, and for that I am to die. My lord, I beg a moment. You may have it. Dunk rode slowly along the fence. The viewing stand was crowded with knights. My lords, he called, do none of you remember Sir Arlen of Pennytree? I was his squire. We served many of you. Ate at your tables, slept at your halls. He saw Manfred Dondarrion seated in the highest tier. Sir Arlen took a wound for your father in service. The knight said something to the lady beside him, paying no heed. Dunk was forced to move. Lord Lannister, Sir Arlen unhorsed you in tourney once. The Grey Lion examined his glove, steadily refusing to raise his eyes. He was a good man, and he taught me to be a good knight. Not only sword and lance, but honor. A knight defends the innocent, he said. That's all I did. I need but one knight to fight beside me. One, that's all. Lord Caron, Lord Swan. Lord Swan laughed as Lord Carrad whispered in his ear. Dunk reigned before Sir Otho Bracken. Sir Otho, all you know for a great champion, join us, I beg you, in the names of the old gods and the news. My cause is just. That may be, said the brute of Bracken, who at least had the grace to reply. But it is your cause, not mine. I know you not, boy. Heartsick, Dunk wheeled Thunder back and forth before tears of pale, cold men. Despairs made him shout, "Are there no true knights amongst you?" Only silence fell. Across the field, Arion laughed. "The dragon is not mocked." Then came a voice. "I will take Sir Duncan's side." A black stallion emerged from the river mists, a black knight on his back. Dunk saw the dragon shield, an enameled red crest upon his helm with 3 roaring heads. The young prince? Good gods, is it truly him? Lord Ashford made the same mistake. Prince Valor? No. The Black Knight lifted his valor. I did not think to enter the lists at Ashford, my lord, so I brought no armor. My son was good enough to lend me his. Prince Baelor smiled almost sadly. The accusers thrown into confusion. Dunk could see. Prince Maekar spurred his mount forward. Brother, have you taken leave of your senses? He pointed mailed finger at Dunk. This man attacked my son. This man protected the weak as every true knight must, he replied, Prince Baelor. Let the gods determine if he was right or wrong. He gave a tug on the reins, turned Valor's huge black destrier, and trotted to the south end of the field. Dunk brought Thunder up beside him. The other defenders gathered round. Robin Risling, Sir Lionel, the Humphreys. Good men, all of them, but are they good enough? Where's Raymond? Sir Raymond, if you please. Be cantered up, a grim smile lighting beneath his plumed helm. My pardon, sir. I needed to make a small change to my sigil. I'd be mistaken for my dishonorable cousin. He showed them his shield. The polished golden field resembled the same Fossaway apple, but the apple had been colored green instead of red. I fear I'm not ripe, but a green apple is better than a wormy one. Lionel laughed, and Dunk grinned despite himself. Even Prince Baelor seemed to approve. Lord Ashford Septon had come to the front of the viewing stands and raised a crystal to call throng to prayer. Attend me, all of you, Prince Baelor said quietly. The accusers are armed with heavy war lances for the first charge. Lances of light ash, 8 feet long, banded against a splitting tip point of steel sharp enough to drive through your breastplate with the weight of a warhorse behind it. We shall use the same, said Sir Humphrey behind him, the Septon calling out to the 7 to judge this dispute. The grant victory to the men. No, said Baelor. We arm ourselves with tourney lances instead. Tourney lances are made to break, objected Raymond. Tourney lances are also made 12 feet long. If our point strikes home, theirs cannot touch us. Aim for the helm or the chest. In a tourney, it is gallant to break your lance against a foe's shield, but here it may well mean death. If we can unhorse them and keep our saddles, the advantage is ours. If Sir Duncan is killed, it is considered the gods to have judged him guilty, and the contest is over. If both accusers are slain or withdraw their accusations, the same is true. Elsewise, all 7 on one side must perish or yield for the trial to end. Prince Darren will not fight, said Dunk. Not well, anyway, laughed Sir Lionel. Against that, we have the 3 white swords to contend. Baelor took calmly. My brother erred when he demanded the Kingsguard fight for his son. Their oath obeyed them to harm a prince of the blood. Fortunately, I am such. He gave them a faint smile. Keep the others off me long enough, and I shall deal with the Kingsguard. My prince, is that chivalrous? Asked Sir Lionel Baratheon as the Septon was finishing his invocation. The gods will let us know, said Baelor Breakspear. A deep expectant silence had fallen across Ashford Meadow. 80 yards away, Arion's gray stallion trumpeted with impatience and pawed the muddy ground. Thunder still very still by comparison. He's an older horse, veteran by 100 fights. He knew what was expected out of him. Egg handed Dunk his shield. May the gods be with you, sir, the boy said.
at the sight of the elm tree, and the shooting star gave him heart. Dunk slid his arm through the strap, tightened his fingers around the grip. Oak and iron guard me well, or else I'm dead and doomed to hell. Steely Pate brought him his lance, but it was Egg that insisted he put it in Dunk's hand. To either side, his companions took up their own lances, spread out in a long line. Prince Baelor to his right, Sir Lionel to his left, and the narrow slit of the great helm limited Dunk's vision to what was directly ahead of him. The viewing stand was gone, and likewise the small folks crowding the fence. There was only the muddy field, the pale brown, blowing mist, river, the town, the castle, the north, and the princelings on his grey charger with the flames on his helm and the dragon shield. Dunk watched Arian's squire hand him the lance, 8 feet long, black as night. He will put that through my heart if he can. A horn sounded. For a heartbeat, Dunk sat there, still as a fly in amber, though all the horses were moving. A stab of panic went through him. Have I forgotten? He thought wildly. Have I forgotten all, or will I shame myself and lose? Thunder saved him, though. The big brown stallion knew what to do, even if the rider did not. He broke into a slow trot. Dunk's training took over. He gave the warhorse a light touch of the spurs and couched his lance. At the same time, he swung his shield over to cover the left side of his body. He held it at an angle to guard from any blows directly to him. Oak and iron guard me well, or else I'm dead and doomed to hell. The noise of the crowd was no more than a crash of distant waves. Thunder slid into a gallop. Dunk's teeth jarred with the violent pace. He pressed his heels down, tightening the legs with all his strength, letting his body become part of the motion beneath the horse. I am Thunder, and Thunder is me. We are one beast, we are joined, we are one. The air of his helm was already so hot he could scarcely breathe. In a tourney joust, his foes would be to his left across the tilting barrier. He would need to swing his lance across Thunder's neck. The angle made it more likely that the wood would split on impact. But today was a deadlier game that they played. With no barriers dividing them, the destriers charged straight at one another. Prince Baelor's huge black, much faster than Thunder, and Dunk glimpsed him pounding ahead out of the corner of his eyes. He sensed more than the others. They do not matter. Only Arian matters. Only he. He watched the dragon come. Sputters of mud sprayed from Prince Arian's hooves. Dunk could see the horse's nostrils flaring, the black lance still angled upwards. A knight who holds his lance high, brings it on line at the last moment, always risks lowering it too far, the old man had taught him. He brought his own points to bear the center of the princeling's chest. My lance will be part of my arm, he said. It's my finger, a wooden finger. All I need to do is touch him with my long wooden finger. He tried not to see the sharp iron point at the end of Arian's black lance, growing larger with every stride. The dragon looked at the dragon. Look at the dragon, he thought. The great three-headed beast covered the prince's shield, red wings, gold fire. No, look, only where you mean to strike, he remembered suddenly. His lance had already begun to slide offline. Dunk tried to correct, but it was too late. He saw the point of Arian's shield taking the dragon between two of its head, gouging into the gout of painted flame. A muffled crack. He felt Thunder recoil under him, trembling with the force of impact, and a half a heartbeat later, something smashed into his side with an awful force. The horses slammed together violently, armor crashing and clanging, as Thunder stumbled and Dunk's lance fell from his hand. Then he was past his foe, clutching his saddle desperately in an effort to keep his seat. Thunder lurched sideways, sloppy in the mud, and Dunk felt his rear leg slip out from under. They were sliding, spinning, then on the stallion's hindquarters, slapped down. Up! Dunk roared, lashing out with his spurs. Up, Thunder! Somehow the old warhorse found its feet again. He could feel a sharp pain under his ribs, and his left arm was beginning to being pulled down. Arian had driven the lance through oak, wool, and steel. 3 feet of splintered ash and sharp iron stuck from his side. Dunk reached over with the right hand, grasped the lance just below the head, clenched his teeth, and pulled it out of him with one savage motion. Blood followed.
seeping through the rings of the mail to redden his surcoat. The world swam, and he almost fell. Dunk, dimly through the pain, could hear the voices calling his name. His beautiful shield was useless now. He tossed it to the side. Elm tree, shooting star, broken lance and all, he drew his sword. He hurt so much he could not think to swing it. Turning, thunder in a tight circle, he tried to get a sense of what was happening elsewhere. Sir Humphrey Harding clung to the neck of a mount, obviously wounded. The other Sir Humphrey lay motionless in a lake of blood-stained mud, a broken lance protruding from his groin. He saw Prince Baelor gallop past, lance still intact, and drive one of the Kingsguard from his saddle. Another of the White Knights was already down, and Macar had been unhorsed as well. The third of the Kingsguard was fending off Sir Robin Risling. Arion. Where's Arion? The sound of drumming hoofs behind him made Dunk turn his head sharply. Thunder, bugled, reeled, hooves lashing out futilely as Arion's gray stallion barreled into him at full gallop. This time there was no hope of recovery. His longsword spinning from his grasp, Roundup rose to meet him, landed with bruising impact that jarred him to the bone and drove the breath from his lungs. The pain stabbed through him so sharp he sobbed. For a moment, all he could do was lie there. As the taste of blood filled his mouth, Dunk the Lunk thought he could be a knight. He knew that he had to get to his feet again, or he would die. Groaning, he forced himself to his knees. He could not breathe, nor could he see. The eyes of his helm was packed with mud. Lurching blindly to his feet, Dunk scraped the mud with a mailed finger. There, that. Through the fingers, he glimpsed the flying dragon and spiked Morningstar whirling on a chain. Then his helm seemed to burst to pieces. When he opened his eyes, he was on the ground again, sprawled on his back. The mud had been knocked out from his helm, but now his eye was closed by blood. Above, nothing was dark gray sky. His face throbbed. He could feel cold, wet metal pressing against his cheek. He broke my head. I'm dying. What was worse was the others who would die with him. Raymond and Prince Baelor and the rest. I failed them. I'm no champion. I'm not even a hedge knight. I'm nothing. He remembered Prince Darren boasting that one could lie insensible in the mud as well as he did. He never saw Dunk the Lunk, though, did he? The shame is worse than the pain. The dragon appeared above him. 3 heads it had, and wings bright as flame, red and yellow and orange. It was laughing. Are you dead yet, Hedge Knight? It asked. Cry for quarter, admit your guilt, and perhaps I'll only claim a hand and a foot. Oh, and the teeth. But what are a few teeth? The dragon laughed again. No, eat this then! A spiked ball whirled down around the sky and pulled towards his head fast as a shooting star. Dunk rolled. Where he found the strength to do, he did not know, but he found it. He rolled into Arion's leg and threw a steel-clad arm around the thigh and dragged him cursing into the mud, rolled on top of him. Let him swing his morning star now! The prince tried forcing the lip of his shield up at Dunk's head, but his battered helm took the brunt of the impact. Arion was strong, but Dunk was stronger, and the larger and heavier as well. He grabbed hold of the shield with both hands, twisted it until the straps broke, then he brought down the top of it on the princeling's helm again and again and again, smashing the enameled flames of his crest. The shield was thicker than Dunk's had been, solid oak with banded iron. A flame broke off, then another. Princeling's flames ran out long before Dunk's. Arion finally let go of the handle of his useless morning star, clawed for the poignard on his hip. He got it free of its sheath, and when Dunk wanged his head with the shield, the knife sailed off into the mud. He could vanquish Sir Duncan the Tall, but not Dunk of Fleabottom. The old man had taught him jousting and swordplay, but this sort of fighting he'd learned earlier in his life, in the shadowy wines and crooked alleys behind the city's wine sinks. Dunk flung a battered shield away, wrenched up the visors of Arion's helmet. A weak visor is a weak point, he remembered Steely Pete saying. The prince had all but ceased to struggle. His eyes were purple and full of terror. Dunk suddenly had the urge to grab one and pop it like a grape beneath 2 fingers, but that would not be knightly. Yield! He shouted. I yield, the dragon whispered, pale lips barely moving. Dunk blinked down at him. For a moment, he could not credit what his ears had heard. Is it done? He turned his head slowly from the side, trying to see. His vision slit was partially glazed by the blow that had smashed the left side of his face. He glimpsed Prince Maekar, mace in hand, trying to fight his way to his son's side. Prince Baelor Breakspear holding him off. Dunk lurched to his feet. Prince Aaron up after him, fumbling the lacings of his helm. He tore it away, flung it to the sights. The sound, grunts and curses, crowds, shouts, one stallion screaming while another raced riderlessly across the field. Everywhere steel rang on steel. Raymond and his cousin were slashing at each other in front of the viewing stands, both afoot, their shields splintered to ruins, the green apple and the red both hacked to tinder. One of the Kingsguard knights carrying a wounded brother from the field. They both looked alike in their white cloaks and armor. The third of the white knights was down. The laughing storm had joined Prince Baelor against Prince Maekar. Mace, battle-axe, longsword, they clanged against helm and shield. Maekar was taking 3 blows for every one that he would land. And Dunk could see over that he would... I must make an end to this before more of us are killed. Prince Arian made a sudden dive for his morning star. Dunk kicked him in the back of the head and knocked his face down, then grabbed him by his legs and dragged him across the field until he reached the viewing stand where Lord Ashford sat. The bright prince was brown as a privy. Dunk hauled him to his feet, rattled, shaking some of the mud onto Lord Ashford and the fair maid. "Tell him!" Arian Bright Flame spit out a mouth of grass and dirt. "I withdraw my accusation." Afterward, Dunk could have not said whether he walked from the field under his own power or required help. He hurt everywhere, and some places hurt worse than others. "I am a knight now, in truth," he remembered wondering. "Am I a champion?" Egg helped him remove his greaves and gorget, and Raymond as well, even Steely Pate. He was too dazed to tell them apart. Their fingers and thumbs and voices. Pate was one complaining, Dunk knew. "Look what he's done to me armor, all dinted and banged and scratched. I ask you, why do I bother? I'll have to cut the mail off of my fear," Raymond said urgently, clutching his friend's hands. "The others, how did they fare?" He had to know. "Has anyone died?" "Beesbury," Raymond said. "Slain by Donald of Duskendale in the first charge. Sir Humphrey is gravely wounded as well. The rest are bruised and bloody. No more, save for you." "And the accusers?" "Sir Willem Wilde of the Kingsguard was carried off the field, and I think I cracked a few of my cousin's ribs. At least I hope so." "And Prince Daron, did he survive?" "Once Sir Robin unhorsed him, he lay where he fell. He may have broken his foot. His own horse trod on him while running loose about the field. Dazed and confused, Dunk felt a huge sense of relief. His dreams was wrong then. The dead dragon. Unless Arian died. He didn't, though, did he?" "No," Egg said. "You spared him, don't you remember?" "I suppose." Already his memories of the fight were becoming confused and vague. "One moment I feel drunk. The next moment it hurts so bad I know I'm dying." They made him lie down on his back and talked over him as he gazed up into the royal and grey sky. It seemed that Dunk was still mourning. He wondered how long the fight had taken. "Gods be good." The lance drove points of the rings deep into his flesh, he heard Raymond saying. "It will mortify unless... Get him drunk and pour some boiling oil into it," someone suggested. "That's how the maesters do it." "Wine!" The voice had a hollow metallic ring to it. "Not oil, that will kill him. It's boiling wine. I'll send Maester Yormwell to have a look at him when he's done tending my brother." A knight stood above him, in black armor, dinted and scarred by many blows. Prince Baelor. The scarlet dragon on his helm had lost both a head, wings, most of its tail. "Your Grace," Dunk said, "I am your man. Please." "Your man." "My man." The Black Knight put his hand on Raymond's shoulders to steady himself. "I need good men, Sir Duncan. The realm needs..." His voice sounded oddly slurred, as if he'd bit his tongue. Dunk was very tired. It was hard to stay awake. Your man, he murmured once more. The prince moved his head slowly from side to side. Sir Raymond, my helm. If you'd be so kind. Visor's cracked. My fingers feel like wood. At once, your grace. Raymond took the prince's helm in both hands and grunted. God, good man, Pate, give me a hand. Steely Pate dragged over a mounting stool. It's crushed down the back, Grace. Towards the left side. Smashed into the gorget. Good steel, this, to stop such a blow. My brother's mace. Most like. He's strong, he winced. Feels queer. Here it comes. Steely Pate lifted the battered helm away. Gods be good. Oh gods, oh gods, oh gods preserve. Dunk saw something red and wet fall out of the helm. Someone was screaming high and terrible. Against the bleak, gray sky, the tall prince in black armor, with only half a skull. He could see red and pale bone beneath something else blue and gray and pulpy. A queer, troubled look passed across Baylor's Breakspear's face like a cloud before passing a sun. He raised his hands, touched 2 fingers, oh so lightly, and then fell. Dunk caught up with him. Up, they said, just as he had with Thunder in the melee. Up, up. But he never remembered that afterward, and the prince did not rise. Baelor of House Targaryen, Prince of Dragonstone, Hand of the King, Protector of the Realm, heir apparent to the Iron Throne of the 7 Kingdoms of Westeros, went into the fire in the yard of Ashford Castle on the north bank of the River Cockleswent. Other great houses might choose to bury their dead in the dark earth or sink them into the cold sea, but Targaryens were the blood of the dragons, and their ends were writ in flame. He had been the finest knight of his age. Some argued that he should have gone into the face dark clad in mail and played a sword in hand. In the end, though, his royal father's wishes prevailed, and Darren too had a peaceable nature. When Dunk shuffled past Baelor's bier, the prince wore a black velvet tunic, 3-headed dragon picked out on a scarlet thread upon his breast. Around his throat, a heavy gold chain. His sword was sheathed by his side, but he did wear a helm, thin gold, with an open visor, so men could see his face. Valar, the young prince, stood vigil. At the foot of the bier, his father lay in a state. He was shorter, slimmer, handsomer version of his sire, without the twice-broken nose that made Baelor seem more human than royal. Valar's hair was brown, but a bright streak of silver gold ran through it. The sight of it reminded Dunk of Arryn, but he knew that was not fair. Egg's hair was growing back bright as his brother's, and Egg was a decent enough lad for a prince. When he stopped to offer awkward sympathies, well larded with thanks, Prince Valar blinked coolly, blue eyes at him, and said, "My father was only 9 and 30. He had it in him to be a great king, the greatest since Aegon the Dragon. Why would the gods take him and leave you?" He shook his head. "Be gone with you, Sir Duncan. Be gone." Wordless, Dunk limped from the castle down to the camp by the green pool. He had no answer for Valar, nor for the questions he asked himself. The maesters and the boiling wine had done their work, and his wound was healing cleanly, though there was to be a deep, puckered scar between his left arm and nipple. He could not see the wound without thinking of Baelor. He saved me once with his sword, and once with his word, though he was a dead man as he stood there. The world made no sense. When a great prince died so a hedge knight might live. Dunk sat beneath the elm and stared morosely at his foot. When 4 guardsmen in livery appeared in the camp late one day, he was sure they'd come to kill him. Too weak and weary to reach for the sword, he sat back to elm waiting. Our prince begs the favor of private word. Which prince? Asked Dunk, wary. This prince, a brusque voice said in the captain's before the captain could answer. Makar walked out from behind the elm. Dunk got to his feet. What would he have of me now? Makar motioned. The guards vanished as suddenly as they had appeared. The prince studied him, and when they paced away from him to stand beside the pool, gazing down at his reflection in the water. Sent Arian to Liz, he announced abruptly. A few years in the Free Cities might change him for the better. Dunk had never been to the Free Cities, so we knew not what to say. He was pleased that Arian was gone from the Seven Kingdoms, and hoped he'd never come back, though. But that was not such a thing you told a father of his son. He stood silent. Some will say I meant to kill my brother. Gods know it's a lie. But I will hear the whispers till the day that I die. And it was my mace that dealt the fatal blow, I have no doubt. The only other foes he faced in melee were 3 Kingsguard, whose vows forbade them to do any more than defend themselves. So it was me. Strange to say, I do not recall the blow that broke my brother's skull. Is that a curse or a mercy? Some of both, I think. From the way he looked at Dunk, it could seem the prince wanted an answer. I could not say, your grace. Perhaps he should have hated Makar, but instead he felt a queer sympathy for the man. You swung the mace, my lord. But it was for me that Prince Baelor died. So I killed him, too, as much as you. Yes, the prince admitted. You'll hear the whispers, too. The king is old. When he dies, Valar will climb the Iron Throne in his place of his father. Each time a battle is lost or crops fail, the fools will say, Baelor would not have let this happen, but the Hedge Knight killed him. Dunk could see the truth in that. If I had not fought, you would have taken my hand off, and my foot. Sometimes, as I sit under that tree there and look at my feet, I ask myself if I couldn't have spared one. How could my foot be worth a prince's life, as well as the 2 others? Humphreys, they were good men. Sir Humphrey Harding had only succumbed to his wounds last night. And what answer does this tree give you? None that I can hear, but the old man, Sir Arlen, every day at eveningfall he'd say, I wonder what the morrow will bring. He never knew no more than we do. Well, mightn't it be that some morrow will come when I'll have need of that foot, when the realm will need that foot more than a prince's life? Makar chewed on that for some time, mouth clenched beneath silvery pale beard. It's not bloody likely, he said harshly. The realm has as many hedge knights as it has hedges, and all of them have feet. If your grace wanted a better answer, I'd want to hear it. Makar frowned. It may be the gods have a taste for cruel japes. Or perhaps there are no gods. Perhaps none of this had any meaning. I'd asked the High Septon, but the last time I went to him, he told me no man can truly understand the workings of the gods. Perhaps he should try sleeping under a tree, he grimaced. My youngest son has grown fond of you, sir. It is time he was a squire, but he tells me he will serve no knight but you. He is an unruly boy, as you noticed. Will you have him? Me? Dunk's mouth opened and closed again. Egg? Aegon, I mean? He's a good lad, but your grace. I know you honor me, but I am only a hedge knight. That can be changed, said Makar. Aegon is returning to my castle at Summerhall. There is a place for you if you wish. As a knight of my household, you'll swear your sword to me. Aegon can squire for you. While you train him, my master-at-arms will finish your training. The prince gave him a shrewd look. Sir Arlen did all he could for you, I have no doubt, but you have a lot to learn. I know, my lord. Dunk looked at him. The green grass and reeds, the tall elm, the ripples dancing across the surface of a sunlit pool. Another dragonfly moving across the water. Perhaps it was the same one. What shall it be, Dunk? He asked himself. Dragonflies or dragons? A few days ago he'd answered it at once. It was all he'd ever dreamed of. But now that the prospect was at his hand, it frightened him. Just before Prince Baelor died, I swore to be his man.
Presumptuous of you. What did he say? That the realm needed good men. That's true enough. What of it? I will take your son as a squire, your grace, but not at Summerhall. Not for a year or two. He's seen sufficient of castles, I would judge. I'll have him only if he can take on the road with me. He pointed to Old Chestnut. He'll ride my stot, wear my old cloak, keep my sword sharp and my mail scoured. We'll sleep in inns and in stables, and now again in the halls of some landed knight and lesser lordning, and maybe under trees when we must. Prince Maekar gave him an incredulous look. Did the trial addle your wits, man? Aegon is a prince of the realm, blood of the dragon. Princes are not made for sleeping in ditches and eating hard salt beef. What is it you're afraid to tell me? Say what you will, sir. Darren never slept in a ditch, I'll wager, Dunk said very quietly. And all the beef Arian ever ate was thick and rare and bloody, like or not. Maekar, Prince of Summerhall, regarded Dunk of Fleabottom for a long time, his jaw silently working beneath the silver beard. Finally, he turned, walked away, never speaking a word. Dunk heard him riding off with his men. When they were gone, there was no sound but the faint thrum of the dragon's wings as it skimmed across the water. The boy came the next morning just as the sun was coming up. He wore old boots, brown breeches, a brown wool tunic, an old traveler's coat. My father says I'm to serve you, lord. Serve you, sir, Dunk reminded him. You can start by saddling the horses. Chestnut is yours. Treat her kindly. I don't want to see you, and I don't want to find you on Thunder unless I put you there. Egg went to get the saddles. Where are we going, sir? Dunk thought for a moment. I've never been over the Red Mountains. Would you like to have a look at Dorne? Egg grinned. I hear they have good puppet shows. Thank you, everybody who's tuned in. We're going to go find a raid target.